2 years had passed since Anakin Skywalker's triumphant return from the unknown regions. 2 years of relative peace, of rebuilding bonds with his family, of watching his children grow from toddlers into young people with personalities and powers that amazed him daily. Luke and Leia were 7 years old now, and their strength in the Force had become impossible to ignore. The training courtyard behind their apartment had been modified to accommodate Anakin's sessions with the twins. What had once been a decorative garden was now a space where levitating objects, practice sabers, and meditation cushions had replaced flowers and fountains. Padme had objected at first. She wanted her children to have normal childhoods, but even she couldn't deny that Luke and Leia needed guidance for powers they couldn't control on their own. "Concentrate, Luke," Anakin instructed, watching his son struggle to lift a small metal sphere with the Force. "Don't force it. The Force isn't something you wrestle into submission. It's something you guide, like water flowing through a channel." Luke's face scrunched with effort, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool morning air. The sphere wobbled, rose a few centimeters, then clattered back to the ground. "I can't do it, Dad. It's too hard." "You can. You're trying too hard. Watch your sister." Leia sat cross-legged nearby, 3 spheres floating in a lazy orbit around her head. Her expression was calm, focused, but not strained. She had inherited her mother's composure along with her father's power, creating a combination that made her naturally gifted at controlled Force manipulation. "Show off," Luke muttered. "I'm not showing off," Leia replied without opening her eyes. "I'm demonstrating proper technique. There's a difference." Anakin suppressed a smile. Leia had definitely inherited Padme's sharp tongue as well. "She's right, Luke. Look at how relaxed she is. The Force responds to intention backed by calm focus, not desperate effort. Try again, but this time, breathe first. Center yourself, then reach out." Luke took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and tried again. This time, the sphere rose smoothly, hovering at chest height with only minimal wobbling. "There. You've got it." Luke's eyes snapped open with excitement, and immediately the sphere dropped. "Oh, I lost it." "But you had it," Anakin assured him. "That's progress. The more you practice, the longer you'll be able to maintain that focus. Both of you are doing incredibly well for your age. Most Jedi younglings don't achieve this level of control until they're much older." "That's because we have the best teacher," Leia said, finally opening her eyes and letting her spheres settle gently to the ground. "You're not like the old Jedi, Dad. You actually explain things in ways that make sense." The compliment warmed Anakin's heart, though it also carried a weight of responsibility. He wasn't just teaching his children to use the Force, he was shaping how they understood power itself. The Emperor's lessons about purpose and control, combined with Padme's emphasis on compassion and choice, created a philosophical foundation that he hoped would serve them better than either pure Jedi dogma or Sith corruption. "All right, that's enough for today," Anakin announced. "Go wash up. Your mother wanted to take you to the Senate Gardens this afternoon." The twins raced inside, their competitive nature turning even simple tasks into contests. Anakin watched them go, feeling the familiar mixture of pride and concern that parenthood brought. They were so young, so full of potential, and the galaxy he was helping to build would shape what they became. His contemplation was interrupted by the chime of his personal communicator, the secure one linked directly to the Imperial Palace. Only one person had that frequency. "Lord Commander Skywalker," the Emperor's voice resonated through the device. "Your presence is required immediately. There is a matter of galactic security that demands your attention." "I'll be there within the hour, Master," Anakin replied, already moving toward his armor storage. "Come prepared for extended deployment. This will not be a brief consultation." The communication ended, and Anakin felt the familiar tension of duty pulling against family. He had known this respite wouldn't last forever. The Emperor had made that clear when he'd returned from the unknown regions. Threats remained, and Anakin was the weapon forged specifically to face them. He found Padme in the kitchen, preparing lunch with the practiced efficiency of someone who had learned to balance senatorial duties with domestic life. She looked up as he entered, and immediately read his expression. "He's calling you back," she said. It wasn't a question. "Something's happened. He wants me at the palace immediately, and told me to prepare for extended deployment." Padme set down the knife she'd been using, her expression carefully controlled. The children were just getting used to having you home. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for doing your duty, Anakin. I knew what I was marrying when I said yes, a man who would always put the galaxy's safety before his own desires. It's one of the things I love about you, even when it hurts. He crossed the kitchen and took her in his arms, holding her close. I'll come back. I always come back. You'd better. Those children need their father, and I need my husband. Whatever the Emperor wants you to do, you make sure you survive it. Yes, Senator, he replied with a small smile. They held each other for a long moment. Then Anakin pulled away reluctantly. Tell Luke and Leia I love them. Tell them I'll be back as soon as I can, and that they need to keep practicing. They're going to be amazing. They already are. They're your children. Anakin donned his silver armor, cleaned and maintained, but still bearing the marks of his campaigns in the unknown regions, and made his way to the Imperial Palace. The journey through Coruscant's upper levels gave him time to speculate about what threat had emerged. The Yuuzhan Vong were the obvious concern, but the Emperor's intelligence networks monitored dozens of potential dangers. It could be anything. The throne room was exactly as he remembered. Vast, golden, radiating the presence of a being whose power made even Anakin feel small. The God Emperor of mankind sat upon his throne, his ageless features contemplative as Anakin entered and knelt. Rise, Lord Commander. We have much to discuss, and little time for ceremony. Anakin stood, noting the unusual urgency in the Emperor's tone. What's happened, Master? A new threat has emerged, or rather, an old threat has finally shown itself. The Siruk. The name triggered memories from intelligence briefings during the Unknown Regions campaign. The reptilian species from wild space. The ones who use entekment. The same. They have been probing our borders for months, testing defenses, capturing isolated outposts. 3 days ago, they took an entire Alliance colony world, 15,000 civilians, now presumably being processed for their obscene technology. Anakin felt cold fury building in his chest. Entekment was one of the most horrifying technologies he'd ever learned about. The Siruk drained the life force from living beings, trapping their consciousness in circuits to power their ships and weapons. The victims remained aware, screaming in agony for as long as their energy lasted, which could be years. 15,000 people, Anakin repeated. All of them being tortured for power, yes. The Siruk view other species as nothing more than batteries. They have no concept of the suffering they inflict, or perhaps they simply don't care. Their religion demands the conquest of all lesser species, and their conversion into fuel for the Siruk's divine purpose. We need to strike back immediately. Free those people before they're processed? That may already be too late for many, but yes, we will strike back. However, this is not simply a rescue mission, Anakin. This is the beginning of a campaign that will require new capabilities from you. Anakin's attention sharpened. New capabilities? The Emperor rose from his throne, his golden armor gleaming as he descended the steps toward Anakin. You have proven yourself an exceptional warrior, a capable commander, and a skilled diplomat. Your campaign in the unknown regions exceeded my expectations, but the threats we face are escalating in scale. The Siruk are merely the first test. The Yuuzhan Vong main fleet will come eventually, and when they do, they will come with millions of warriors and thousands of world ships. To face threats of that magnitude, you need abilities beyond what you currently possess. What abilities? Battle meditation. The term was familiar. Anakin had encountered it in Jedi historical records during his training. A rare force ability that allowed the user to coordinate armies, boost allied morale while crushing enemy will, and perceive battlefield conditions across vast distances simultaneously. Battle meditation is incredibly rare, Anakin said slowly. In the old Jedi Order, maybe 1 or 2 practitioners existed per generation, and even they could only affect limited areas. The old Jedi were limited by their own restrictions, the Emperor replied. They feared battle meditation's potential for misuse, so they never developed it fully. They taught practitioners to use it defensively, to support rather than dominate. But you are not bound by their fears, Anakin. You are a Grey Knight, trained to use all aspects of the Force without corruption. I will teach you to wield battle meditation, as it should be wielded as a weapon of total war, capable of coordinating millions of minds across light years of space. The scope of what the Emperor was describing staggered Anakin. Coordinating millions of minds? That went beyond anything he had imagined possible. Can it really be done at that scale? I have seen it done. In my home galaxy, there were psychers capable of guiding entire crusades through their mental powers. They burned out quickly. The human mind was not designed for such strain, but they accomplished miracles before they died. You, however, have advantages they did not. Your enhancements, your training, your connection to this galaxy's force rather than the corrupted warp of my reality. Yes, Anakin, you can learn this. And you must, because the alternative is facing overwhelming numbers with only conventional tactics. How long will it take to learn? Weeks of intensive training, perhaps months to master fully, but you will have the basics within a fortnight, enough to begin field application. The Syruk campaign will serve as your testing ground. You will learn through doing, which has always been your strongest method of growth. Anakin absorbed this, his mind already racing through implications. If he could truly coordinate entire fleets through battle meditation, if he could perceive and influence battles across multiple fronts simultaneously. When do we begin? He asked. Immediately. But first, there is another matter to address. The Jedi Crusaders must be reorganized for the warfare ahead. They have proven themselves capable warriors, but they remain too individualistic, too focused on personal combat rather than large-scale coordination. I am creating a new designation for them: Battle Psychers. Battle Psychers, force users specifically trained to support military operations at the strategic level. They will enhance troop morale, provide psychic defense against enemy manipulation, coordinate communications across battlefields, and serve as force multipliers for conventional units. Ahsoka Tano will lead the first unit. She has the temperament and skills for such work. Anakin felt a surge of approval. Ahsoka had always been adaptable, willing to think beyond traditional Jedi limitations. She would excel in this new role. The Syruk campaign will be the first deployment of both your battle meditation and the battle psycher units, the Emperor continued. It will be a proving ground for tactics we will need when the Yuuzhan Vong arrive. Consider the Syruk practice for the real war to come. Understood, Master. When do I deploy? After your training shows sufficient progress. 3 weeks. Perhaps 4. The Syruk are not going anywhere, and rushing into battle without proper preparation has doomed more campaigns than enemy action ever has. For now, you will remain on Coruscant, training daily with me. Say your goodbyes to your family, Anakin. When next you leave, it may be for an extended period. Anakin bowed. I'll inform Padme and the children. Do so. And Anakin? Your twins. They are progressing well in their training? Very well, Master. Their potential is remarkable, good. They will be Grey Knights one day, if they choose that path. But that is a concern for the future. For now, focus on the present threat. The Syruk must be eliminated, and through that elimination, you will forge yourself into the weapon the galaxy needs. As Anakin left the throne room, his mind was already shifting into the strategic mode he'd developed during the Unknown Regions campaign. The Syruk were a threat that needed to be neutralized completely. Their technology was too horrific to allow continued existence. But more than that, this campaign would prepare him for what was coming. The Yuuzhan Vong would return. When they did, he needed to be ready, and he would be. The training chamber the Emperor had prepared for Anakin's battle meditation instruction was unlike anything else in the Imperial Palace. Located deep beneath the throne room, it was a vast circular space with walls covered in psychic dampening material that the Emperor had synthesized from his knowledge of warp-resistant materials. The ceiling was domed, inscribed with symbols that Anakin recognized as the same protective wards carved into his armor, though these were far more complex and interconnected. At the chamber's center stood a raised platform surrounded by holographic projectors capable of displaying tactical information from across the galaxy. This would be where Anakin learned to extend his consciousness beyond the limitations of individual awareness. Battle meditation is not simply a force technique, the Emperor began. his voice resonating through the chamber. It is a fundamental restructuring of how you perceive reality itself. Currently, you experience the universe as a single consciousness, your own. You reach out through the Force to touch other minds, but you remain separate from them. Battle meditation requires you to blur that separation, to become a nexus point through which multiple consciousnesses flow. Anakin settled into a meditative posture on the platform, his enhanced physiology allowing him to maintain perfect stillness despite the mental tension building within him. How is that different from telepathy? I can already sense others' thoughts and emotions. Sensing is passive reception. Battle meditation is active coordination. You will not merely feel what others think and feel. You will guide those thoughts and feelings toward unified purpose. You will become the conductor of an orchestra, where every musician is a soldier, every instrument is a weapon, and the symphony is victory. The Emperor raised his hands, and the holographic projectors activated, displaying a simulated battle scene. Thousands of ship icons moved in chaotic patterns, representing a fleet engagement. "Watch these vessels," the Emperor commanded. Each one operates independently, making decisions based on limited information and individual judgment. They fight well enough, but they are not unified. Now, observe what happens when a battle meditation practitioner enters the equation. The chaotic movement suddenly shifted. Ships that had been reacting to immediate threats began moving in coordinated patterns, anticipating enemy movements before they occurred. Formations tightened with mathematical precision. Vulnerable vessels were protected by those better positioned to absorb damage. The entire fleet transformed from a collection of individual units into a single organism with thousands of components. "That is battle meditation," the Emperor said. "Not mind control, the individual wills remain intact, but their perceptions become aligned, their reactions synchronized, their purpose unified. A fleet under battle meditation fights with a shared awareness that transcends normal communication." "How do I achieve that?" Anakin asked, both awed and daunted by what he'd witnessed. "Through stages. First, you must learn to expand your consciousness beyond your physical form. You have done this partially during your campaigns, sensing enemy positions, feeling the flow of battle. But you have always returned to your individual perspective. Now, you must learn to maintain that expanded awareness while simultaneously directing it." The Emperor gestured, and the holographic display changed to show a simple grid with 10 points of light. "These represent 10 soldiers in the training barracks above us. They have been instructed to perform random movements at random intervals. Your task is to sense their actions as they occur, then guide them without verbal communication to move in synchronized patterns. When you can coordinate 10, we will expand to 100, then 1,000, then 10,000. Anakin closed his eyes and reached out with the Force. He could feel the 10 soldiers above him, their life signatures, their emotions, their intentions. Each mind was a distinct presence, like lights in the darkness. "I can sense them," he reported. "They're waiting for instructions. Do not instruct them. Become the pattern you wish them to follow. Let your intention flow through the Force like ripples in water. Their minds will feel your purpose and align with it naturally." Anakin tried. He focused on a simple pattern, all 10 soldiers walking in a circle simultaneously. He projected this intention outward, trying to make it felt rather than commanded. Nothing happened. The soldiers continued their random movements. "You're thinking too specifically," the Emperor corrected. "You're trying to control their bodies. That is not battle meditation, that is domination. Instead, share with them the feeling of circular motion, the rightness of synchronized movement, the unity of purpose. Let them choose to align with that feeling." Anakin adjusted his approach. Instead of directing specific actions, he focused on the emotional and intentional layer beneath action. The feeling of harmony, the satisfaction of coordination, the strength found in unity. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the 10 soldiers began to adjust their movements, not perfectly synchronized, but trending toward the pattern Anakin held in his mind. After several minutes, 8 of the 10 were moving in rough circles. 2 remained resistant, their individual wills stronger than the passive suggestion. "Better," the Emperor acknowledged, "but not good enough. Those 2 who resist, they are not enemies to be broken. but instruments out of tune. Find the frequency that resonates with them specifically. Every mind has different motivations, different triggers. True battle meditation accounts for individual variance while maintaining collective purpose. Anakin focused on the two resistant minds. One was analytical, uncomfortable with unexplained instructions. The other was naturally contrary, resistant to authority. For the first, Anakin projected logic, the mathematical beauty of synchronized motion, the efficiency of coordinated action. For the second, he projected the strength of unity, the power that came from being part of something greater. Both minds shifted, gradually aligning with the others. 10 soldiers now moved in perfect circles, their actions synchronized despite no verbal communication between them. Anakin opened his eyes, breathing hard. Sweat covered his face despite the chamber's cool temperature. That was exhausting. Because you forced it, the Emperor observed. You concentrated too hard, spent too much energy maintaining the connection. Battle meditation at scale requires efficiency. You must learn to establish the connection and then let it sustain itself, only intervening when adjustments are needed. Think of it like balancing a plate on a stick, initial effort to establish balance, then minimal touch to maintain it. How long did I maintain that connection? Anakin asked. 4 minutes. In actual combat, you will need to maintain battle meditation for hours, possibly days. Your current method would burn you out within 30 minutes. Then I need to practice. You need to practice correctly. Repetition of flawed technique only reinforces flaws. We will work on efficiency before scale. Again, but this time, use minimal force expenditure. Find the point of balance where your intention guides without forcing. They practiced for 6 hours that first day. By the end, Anakin could coordinate the 10 soldiers for 20 minutes without exhaustion. It was progress, but he recognized how far he had to go. Coordinating 10 willing participants in a training exercise was nothing compared to coordinating thousands in the chaos of actual combat. The second week of training brought exponential increases in difficulty. The Emperor expanded Anakin's practice subjects from 10 to 100 soldiers, then to 500. Each increase revealed new challenges that simple scaling hadn't prepared him for. When you coordinated 10 minds, you could hold each one individually in your awareness. The Emperor explained as Anakin struggled with 500 simultaneous connections. That approach does not scale. You cannot hold 500 individual threads, your mind will fragment under the strain. Instead, you must learn to perceive them as a collective while still accounting for individual variants. See the forest while remaining aware of individual trees. It was maddening work. Anakin would establish connection with the group, feel their collective consciousness beginning to align with his purpose, then lose control as individual variations created cascading disruptions. A soldier with a headache, another with personal worries, a third who was hungry. Each minor distraction rippled through the collective, breaking the synchronization. "You're too rigid," the Emperor criticized after Anakin's third failed attempt that day. "You seek perfect alignment when you should seek functional harmony. An army does not require every soldier to think identical thoughts, it requires them to move toward shared objectives despite individual differences. Allow variation within the pattern." Anakin tried again, this time relaxing his expectations. Instead of demanding perfect synchronization, he projected general intent: move forward together, maintain formation, respond to threats as a unit. The result was messier than his previous attempts, but more sustainable. Soldiers moved in roughly coordinated patterns, not perfectly aligned, but functionally unified. "Better," the Emperor approved. "Now maintain that connection while I introduce complications." Without warning, 20 of the 500 soldiers received orders through conventional channels to change direction. The disruption rippled through Anakin's mental coordination, threatening to collapse the entire structure. "Adapt," the Emperor commanded. "Real battle introduces constant complications. Your battle meditation must be flexible enough to incorporate changes without breaking." Anakin fought to maintain the connection while adjusting the overall pattern to accommodate the 20 divergent soldiers. It was like trying to redirect a river while standing in its current. Overwhelming force threatened to sweep away his control. But gradually, painfully, he found equilibrium. The 20 soldiers' new direction became part of the pattern rather than a disruption to it. The collective adjusted, flowing around the change like water around a stone. "Excellent," the Emperor said with genuine approval. "You begin to understand. Battle meditation is not about control. It is about coordination. You guide the flow without trying to stop it. You shape intention without breaking will. This is what the old Jedi never understood. They feared battle meditation's power, so they never developed it beyond crude applications. You will take it further than any Force user in this galaxy's history." By the end of the second week, Anakin could coordinate 500 soldiers through complex maneuvers for over an hour. His efficiency had improved dramatically. Where initial attempts left him drained after minutes, he could now maintain the connection with manageable mental effort. But he knew this was still only preparation. 500 willing participants in controlled conditions was nothing compared to what he would face against the Seeruk. On the 15th day of training, the Emperor introduced a new element, the Battle Psychers. Ahsoka Tano led 5 Jedi Crusaders into the training chamber, each wearing modified armor that incorporated psychic enhancement circuitry designed by the Emperor. They moved with the disciplined precision of warriors who had trained together extensively. "Snips," Anakin greeted his former Padawan, using the nickname from their Clone Wars days. "You're looking well. You too, Sky Guy. Though I hear you've been pushing yourself pretty hard in here. The soldiers we've been coordinating talk about feeling your presence in their minds. They say it's like having a guiding star in the chaos. That's what we're going for. The Emperor says you're leading the first Battle Psyker unit? That's right. We've been training separately, learning to enhance troop effectiveness through Force support. But the Emperor says we need to integrate our abilities with your battle meditation. Our individual Force projections should amplify your coordination rather than interfere with it." The Emperor descended from his observation position to address the assembled group. "What Ahsoka says is correct. Battle Psychers serve as relay points for battle meditation, extending its range and reducing strain on the primary coordinator. Think of yourselves as amplifiers." Anakin broadcasts the signal. "You boost and clarify it for troops in your immediate area." "How do we do that exactly?" asked one of the other Crusaders. A Zabrak named Kor Ven, who had been one of the first Jedi to embrace the Emperor's teachings. "Through synchronization with Anakin's mental frequency. You must attune your Force presence to his, becoming extensions of his will, while maintaining your own combat effectiveness. It is a delicate balance. Too much attunement, and you lose individual functionality. Too little, and you fail to properly relay his coordination." The training that followed was the most complex yet. Anakin had to expand his battle meditation to encompass not just the soldiers above, but the 5 Battle Psychers with him. The Psychers then had to learn to receive his projected intentions and amplify them to the troops in their designated sectors. Initial attempts were disasters. The Psychers' own Force signatures interfered with Anakin's projections, creating mental static that confused the soldiers. Some troops received contradictory signals. Anakin's intention filtered through different Psychers' interpretations, and the resulting chaos was worse than having no coordination at all. "This isn't working," Ahsoka said after their 4th failed attempt. "We're all projecting slightly different versions of your intention. The soldiers don't know which signal to follow." "Then we need to eliminate that variance," Anakin replied, thinking through the problem. "You can't just relay my intention, you have to become channels for it. Completely transparent, adding nothing of your own interpretation. That goes against everything we've been trained," Kor Ven protested. "We're supposed to enhance troop effectiveness with our own Force abilities. If we're just passive relays, we lose that capability." The Emperor intervened. "Both approaches have merit, but neither is complete. You must learn to be transparent to Anakin's coordination while simultaneously adding your own enhancement. 2 layers of support, rather than competing signals. Anakin provides strategic coordination, overall patterns and objectives. You provide tactical enhancement, morale boosting, reflex sharpening, danger sense amplification. Different frequencies serving complementary purposes. This reframing changed everything. The Psychers stopped trying to relay Anakin's specific intentions and instead focused on their specialized support roles. Ahsoka enhanced combat reflexes. Kor Ven bolstered mental resilience. Others provided different enhancements. Meanwhile, Anakin's battle meditation flowed through them as a base layer, coordinating overall movement while the Psyker's individual contributions made soldiers more effective within that coordination. "This is working," Ahsoka reported during their next practice session. "I can feel your strategic intent as a foundation, and my own enhancements layer on top without interference. It's like harmonizing rather than competing." The soldiers' report increased effectiveness, Cody confirmed via communication from above. They describe feeling both coordinated and individually empowered. It's unlike anything they've experienced before. The breakthrough energized the training. Over the following days, they refined the technique until the coordination between Anakin's battle meditation and the Psyker's enhancement became seamless. When Anakin projected intent to advance, the Psykers amplified that intent while simultaneously sharpening troops' combat readiness. When Anakin coordinated defensive formation, the Psykers bolstered mental resilience and danger awareness. "You are ready for field testing," the Emperor announced at the end of the third week. "Not fully mastered, that will require actual combat experience, but sufficiently capable to begin the Sirook campaign. The enemy will serve as your crucible. Through fighting them, you will forge your abilities into their final form." Anakin felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Hundreds of Proto-Space Marines would rely on his mental coordination. Thousands of lives on the Sirook-held colony world needed liberation. The skills he had practiced in controlled conditions would now be tested under the chaos of real warfare. "I won't fail them, Master," he promised. "I know you will not. You are my champion, Anakin Skywalker, the first Grey Knight. And now, you become something more, a battle commander whose mind becomes the weapon that coordinates all other weapons. Go. Prepare your forces. The Sirook have committed atrocities that demand justice. You will deliver that justice while simultaneously preparing yourself for the greater war to come." The final preparation before deployment involved a large-scale exercise that would simulate actual combat conditions. The Emperor had arranged for 10,000 Proto-Space Marines to participate, along with Ahsoka's full battle Psyker unit of 50 Force users. It would be the largest coordination Anakin had ever attempted. The exercise took place in a massive military training facility on Coruscant's orbit, a space station specifically designed for large-scale war games. The Proto-Space Marines were divided into attack and defense forces, with the attackers tasked with capturing a series of objectives while defenders tried to stop them. Anakin would coordinate the attackers through battle meditation while an opposing commander led the defenders conventionally. 10,000 minds, Anakin murmured as he settled into the coordination chamber they'd prepared. Around him, 50 battle Psykers took their positions, each one assigned to relay his intentions to a specific sector of the attacking force. "You've got this, Sky Guy," Ahsoka assured him. "We've practiced the integration. Just do what you've been doing, but bigger." But bigger was an understatement. Coordinating 10,000 minds was an order of magnitude beyond anything he'd attempted. But the Emperor was right, he would never truly master this ability in training conditions. Only the pressure of actual application would force his skills to their full potential. "All units report ready." Rex's voice came through the command channel. He was leading the ground assault, serving as Anakin's physical presence on the battlefield, awaiting coordination signal. Anakin closed his eyes and reached out through the Force. 10,000 minds suddenly filled his awareness, not as individual points of light, but as a vast constellation of consciousness. The scale was staggering, overwhelming, threatening to fragment his focus into uselessness. But he remembered the Emperor's lessons. Don't try to hold each mind individually. See the collective, shape the flow. He projected his first intention. Prepare for coordinated assault. Not specific instructions to specific soldiers, but general intent that the collective could interpret and implement. Through the battle Psykers, that intention was amplified and clarified, reaching every soldier simultaneously. 10,000 minds shifted, aligning toward the shared objective. Not perfectly, there was variance, individual interpretation, slight delays in coordination, but functionally, 10,000 soldiers prepared for battle as a unified force. "Beginning assault," Rex reported. "First wave advancing on Objective Alpha." Anakin could feel it, the movement of thousands of soldiers through his coordinated awareness. He sensed the defensive positions ahead, felt his soldiers' confidence boosted by the battle psyker's enhancement, perceived the developing battle landscape with clarity that transcended normal situational awareness. The defenders reacted, shifting to meet the assault. Anakin felt the change and adjusted his coordination accordingly, redirecting units to exploit gaps in the defensive formation. His soldiers responded, not because they received specific orders, but because they felt the rightness of the new direction through his mental projection. "Enemy is repositioning," one of the battle psychers reported. "They're trying to reinforce Objective Alpha." Anakin projected a new intention. Feint at Alpha, true strike at Beta. The feeling of misdirection flowed through his coordination, and suddenly thousands of soldiers understood the strategy without it being verbally communicated. The assault on Alpha became less committed, while a new force coalesced toward Objective Beta. The defenders, operating conventionally, couldn't adjust fast enough. Their commander saw the feint, but by the time he could communicate new orders through normal channels, Anakin's coordinated force had already exploited the opening. "Objective Beta captured," Rex announced triumphantly. "Their command structure is too slow to respond to our coordination speed." It was working. The battle meditation was functioning exactly as the Emperor had described. Not mind control, but shared awareness that allowed thousands to act with the coordination of a single organism. Decisions that would take minutes through conventional command structure happened in seconds through mental synchronization. But maintaining the coordination was exhausting. An hour into the exercise, Anakin felt his mental reserves depleting. The strain of holding 10,000 minds in his awareness, constantly adjusting intentions, responding to battlefield changes, it was burning through his concentration like fuel through an engine. "Sky Guy, your projection is weakening," Ahsoka warned. "I'm having to compensate more to maintain clarity." "I know. Just need to find better efficiency." Anakin adjusted his technique, pulling back from active coordination to more passive guidance. Instead of constantly projecting specific intentions, he established general parameters and let the collective operate within them. It required more trust in his soldiers' judgment, but reduced his mental expenditure. The change stabilized his coordination. He could feel the difference, less direct control, but more sustainable operation. His soldiers still moved with coordinated purpose, but now they were contributing more of their own tactical judgment within his strategic framework. "That's better," Ahsoka confirmed. "You're letting us do more of the work. This is how it should function. You provide the framework, we provide the amplification. Soldiers provide the execution." The exercise continued for 4 more hours. By the end, Anakin had successfully coordinated his 10,000 soldiers to capture all objectives while suffering minimal casualties. The defending force, despite excellent conventional leadership, simply couldn't match the coordination speed that battle meditation provided. When he finally released the connection, Anakin collapsed backward in his chair, completely drained. His head pounded with the strain of hours maintaining expanded awareness, and his body felt heavy despite having not moved physically. "That was impressive," the Emperor observed, having watched the entire exercise. "You coordinated 10,000 minds through an extended engagement, achieved all objectives, and maintained efficiency despite exhaustion. You are ready." "I don't feel ready," Anakin admitted. "I feel like I barely held it together. And yet you succeeded. That is the nature of pushing limits. It never feels comfortable. But you learned critical lessons today. You discovered the balance between active coordination and passive framework. You integrated battle psyker support effectively. You maintained functionality despite strain. These lessons will serve you well against the Cyruk." Rex entered the coordination chamber, his armor bearing the marks of simulated combat. "Lord Commander, the men are talking about nothing else. They've never experienced anything like that. They said it was like fighting with one mind spread across thousands of bodies. They knew what their brothers were doing without looking, anticipated enemy movements before they happened, felt the battle plan as instinct rather than instruction. Whatever you did, it works." "It works," Anakin agreed. "But it's not perfected. I need more practice, more refinement. You will receive both through actual combat," the Emperor stated. "The Cyruk campaign begins in 3 days. Gather your forces, Lord Commander. You will take the 1st Legion, augmented by the complete Battle Psyker Corps. Your mission is simple. Eliminate the Seeruk threat entirely. Their practice of entekment is an abomination that cannot be allowed to continue. You will rescue whatever survivors remain from the captured colony, then systematically destroy the Seeruk's capability to threaten the Alliance ever again. Understood, Master. Complete elimination. Complete elimination, the Emperor confirmed. They are not like the Vong, who might be reasoned with through strength. The Seeruk are irredeemable. Their entire civilization is built on the suffering of others. They exist only to consume. This is not warfare, Anakin. This is pest control on a galactic scale. Do not hesitate. Do not show mercy. Mercy to the Seeruk is cruelty to their victims. Remember that when you face them. The words were harsh, but Anakin understood their necessity. The Seeruk weren't just enemies. They were practitioners of a technology so evil that allowing its continued existence was itself a moral failing. Every moment he delayed was another moment innocent people suffered in entekment. 3 days, Anakin said. I'll be ready. The farewell was harder this time. Luke and Leia were old enough to understand what their father's departure meant: weeks or months of absence, constant danger, the possibility that he might not return. Do you have to go? Luke asked, his young face showing distress he was trying to hide. I do, son. There are people who need help, and I'm one of the only ones who can provide it. The Emperor trained me for exactly this kind of mission. But why you? Leia demanded, her mother's fierce protectiveness evident in her tone. There are other soldiers, other commanders. Why does it always have to be you? Anakin knelt to be at eye level with his twins. Because some responsibilities can't be delegated. I have abilities that others don't, not just strength, but the power to coordinate entire armies with my mind. That power comes with obligation. If I didn't use it to help others, I wouldn't deserve to have it. That's what Mom says, Luke mumbled. That power means responsibility. Your mother is very wise. Listen to her while I'm gone. Practice your force training, take care of each other, and remember I love you both more than anything in this galaxy. That love is why I fight. I'm not just protecting strangers out there, I'm protecting your future. They hugged him fiercely, and Anakin held them close, memorizing the feeling. These moments were what gave his service meaning, not abstract concepts of duty or galactic security, but concrete love for specific people. Padme waited until the children had gone to their rooms before speaking her mind. Genocide, Anakin? The Emperor is ordering you to exterminate an entire species? They practice entekment, Padme. They trap conscious beings in circuits, keep them aware while draining their life force for years. 15,000 Alliance citizens are being processed right now, screaming in agony while the Seeruk use their suffering as fuel. What would you have me do? Negotiate with creatures that view us as nothing more than batteries? I don't know. But complete elimination of a species. That's what monsters do. Sometimes stopping monsters requires monstrous actions. That's what the Emperor taught me. That's what the Grey Knight philosophy demands. We do what is necessary, not what is comfortable. And what happens to you each time you do something necessary? What pieces of your humanity do you lose with each atrocity you commit in the name of the greater good? The question cut deep because Padme voiced fears he harbored himself. Every time he killed without hesitation, every time he accepted orders for mass destruction, every time he chose pragmatism over idealism, did he lose something essential? Was he still the young slave from Tatooine who dreamed of freeing the oppressed? Or had he become something else entirely? I don't know, he admitted honestly. I ask myself that question often, but I know this. If I don't stop the Seeruk, thousands more will suffer, millions more when they expand. Their hunger is endless. They will keep taking victims until someone stops them. If that someone is me, and if stopping them requires total elimination, then I will carry that burden. For you, for our children, for everyone who would otherwise become fuel for their machines. Padme touched his face, her expression sad but understanding. Just promise me you'll come back as yourself, not as a weapon wearing my husband's face, but as Anakin, the man who loves his family, who doubts his actions, who questions authority even while obeying it. That's the man I married. Don't let the Emperor's pragmatism erase him completely. I promise. And Padme? That doubt you mention. Those questions I ask myself, that's how I know I'm still me. The day I stop questioning, the day I commit atrocities without moral struggle, that's when you should worry. For now, I struggle with every choice. That struggle is my humanity. They kissed, holding each other with the desperate intensity of people who knew separation was coming. Then Anakin donned his armor, took one last look at his family, and departed for war. The First Legion was assembled on Coruscant's orbital staging platform, 15,000 proto-space marines, their gray armor gleaming under the station lights. Alongside them, Ahsoka's Battle Psyker Corps stood in their own formation, 50 Force users who would serve as relay points for Anakin's battle meditation. Rex, Cody, and Wolf waited at the primary shuttle, their battle-scarred armor a testament to years of warfare together. "Fleet is ready, sir," Rex reported. "Ships are loaded, troops are eager, and we've got enough firepower to level a planet. The Searook won't know what hit them. More importantly, they won't be able to mount effective resistance," Cody added. "With your battle meditation coordinating our forces, their conventional command structure won't be able to respond fast enough to our maneuvers." "Don't get overconfident," Anakin warned. "The Searook have their own advantages. Their entekment technology gives them capabilities we don't fully understand. Their ships are powered by captured consciousnesses, which means they might have psychological weapons we haven't anticipated. Stay sharp." "Always, sir," Wolf replied. "But it's hard not to feel confident. After facing the Vong, the Searook seem almost manageable. Every enemy is dangerous if you underestimate them. Let's move out. The sooner we engage, the sooner we can stop the suffering of those captured colonists." As Anakin boarded the Indomitable, now fully repaired from her damage during the Vong engagement, he felt the familiar transition from father and husband to Lord Commander and Grey Knight. The armor settled on his shoulders like a second skin, its weight both physical and metaphorical. The crusade against the Searook had begun. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this campaign would be merely the opening act of a much larger conflict. Somewhere beyond the galactic rim, the Yuuzhan Vong were watching, waiting, preparing their own response to the empire that had humiliated them. The true war was still coming. But first, the Searook would learn what it meant to face the Emperor's champion wielding powers they had never imagined. The journey to wild space took the fleet through increasingly uncharted territory. Unlike the unknown regions where the Chiss had provided detailed star charts, wild space remained largely unmapped, a chaotic zone between the galactic rim and the true unknown, where hyperspace lanes were unstable and navigation required constant adjustment. Anakin spent much of the journey in meditation, preparing his mind for the sustained battle meditation he would need to employ. The training exercises had been valuable, but he knew that actual combat would test his abilities in ways simulated conditions never could. "Lord Commander, we're approaching the Searook border zone," the navigation officer reported. "Long-range sensors are detecting energy signatures consistent with their technology." Anakin rose from his meditation chamber and made his way to the bridge. Through the main viewport, the stars looked no different from those in known space. But his force senses told a different story. There was a wrongness here, a psychic taint that permeated the region. Thousands of trapped consciousnesses screaming in silent agony, their life forces being drained to power alien technology. "I can feel them," Ahsoka said, joining him at the viewport. Her expression was troubled. "The entekment victims, so much suffering. That's why we're here, to end that suffering permanently, by killing everyone who inflicts it. By eliminating a species that exists only to inflict it. There's a difference." Ahsoka nodded, but Anakin could sense her discomfort. She had embraced the Grey Knight philosophy, but total genocide still troubled her conscience. He understood it troubled his as well, but some moral burdens had to be carried regardless of their weight. "All ships, battle stations," Anakin commanded. "We're entering hostile territory. Expect contact at any time." The fleet shifted into combat formation, with the Indomitable Will at the center, surrounded by escort vessels. The battle psychers moved to their designated positions throughout the fleet, ready to relay Anakin's coordination when combat began. They didn't have to wait long. "Contact," the tactical officer announced. Multiple bogies emerging from hyperspace. "Count is 37 vessels. Configuration matches Sea-Rook warships. On the tactical display, the enemy ships appeared as angry red icons. They were unlike anything in the Alliance database, organic curves mixed with technological angles, as if someone had tried to blend living creatures with mechanical ships. Which, given their entekment technology, was essentially accurate. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, revealing Anakin's first view of a Sea-Rook. The creature was reptilian, standing on powerful hind legs with a tail for balance. Its scales were a mottled green-brown, and its eyes were yellow with vertical pupils that regarded Anakin with cold calculation. It wore what appeared to be ceremonial robes, decorated with symbols that probably represented their religious hierarchy. "Warm-blooded intruders," the Sea-Rook spoke, its voice a guttural hiss translated by the ship's systems. "You enter the territory of the Sea-Ruvi Imperium. Your presence is unwelcome but not unexpected. We detected your forces weeks ago and prepared appropriate reception. Surrender your vessels and submit to entekment. Your life forces will serve a greater purpose than your pitiful individual existences ever could." Anakin felt rage building in his chest, cold, controlled rage that his Grey Knight training allowed him to channel rather than suppress. This creature spoke of enslaving thousands of souls, as if it were doing them a favor. "I am Lord Commander Anakin Skywalker of the Galactic Alliance," he replied, his voice steady despite his anger. "Your forces attacked our colony world and captured 15,000 Alliance citizens. Those people are being tortured in your entekment machines right now. I have come to free them and ensure you never threaten our people again." "Free them?" The Sea-Rook made a sound that might have been laughter. "Their spirits have already been uploaded to our blessed matrices. They serve the Sea-Ruvi Imperium now, their consciousness preserved eternally in service to our divine mission. You should be grateful we have given them purpose beyond their brief, meaningless lives. You've trapped them in eternal suffering while draining their life force. That's not purpose, that's abomination. Your primitive species cannot comprehend our sacred technology. Entekment is the highest honor we can bestow upon inferior beings. But since you reject our generosity, we will take what we need by force. Your fleet will provide many strong spirits for our matrices. All ships, attack. Take the warmbloods alive. Damaged goods provide less efficient entekment." The transmission cut off, and immediately the Sea-Rook fleet surged forward. Their ships moved with eerie coordination, probably enhanced by the entekment technology that connected their systems through captured consciousnesses. "Here we go," Rex muttered from his station. "Lord Commander, your orders?" Anakin closed his eyes and reached out through the Force. This was the moment his first true combat deployment of battle meditation. 15,000 minds across dozens of ships awaited his coordination. He expanded his consciousness, feeling each soldier's presence as a point of light in the vast darkness. The battle psychers were positioned throughout the fleet, ready to amplify and relay his intentions. He felt Ahsoka's steady presence, Corven's analytical mind, the others waiting to fulfill their roles. All forces, Anakin projected through both verbal and mental channels, prepare for coordinated engagement. Battle meditation is active. He felt the moment his mental coordination connected with the fleet. 15,000 minds suddenly became aware of each other in ways that transcended normal communication. They could feel the battle plan as instinct, sense their comrades' positions without looking, anticipate enemy movements through shared awareness. "Execute Formation Theta 7, Anakin commanded, projecting the tactical intention through his battle meditation. "Concentrate fire on their lead vessels. We break their coordination first." The Alliance fleet moved with synchronization that made the earlier training exercise look clumsy. Ships that had been positioned defensively suddenly shifted into aggressive formation, their movements perfectly timed to maximize firepower concentration while minimizing vulnerability. Turbolaser batteries opened fire simultaneously, dozens of beams converging on a single Sea-Rook vessel. The alien ship's shields, if they had shields, couldn't withstand the concentrated assault. Hull plating ruptured, revealing organic mechanical hybrid structures beneath. The ship began to list, its systems failing. "First kill confirmed," the tactical officer announced, but the Sea-Rook were adapting. Their fleet dispersed from tight formation, making it harder to concentrate fire. And then their weapons opened up. The beams that lanced from the Sea-Rook ships were like nothing Anakin had seen before. They weren't conventional energy weapons, they were something else, something that made his Force senses recoil. When a beam struck an Alliance escort vessel's shields, Anakin felt the screaming of trapped souls intensify. The weapons were powered by entekment victims, their agony converted directly into destructive energy. "Shields holding," reported the indomitable Will's shield officer. "But sir, these energy readings are off the scale. Whatever they're using, it's not standard plasma or turbolaser technology. It's suffering made manifest," Anakin replied grimly. "They're literally weaponizing their victims' pain. Maintain coordination. We need to end this quickly. Every moment we fight, they're burning through more trapped souls." He adjusted his battle meditation, projecting new tactical intentions. The fleet responded instantly, shifting to minimize exposure while maintaining offensive pressure. Fighters launched in coordinated waves, their pilots feeling the battle meditation as a guiding presence that helped them anticipate both enemy and ally movements. The Sea-Rook fleet was good. Their entekment-enhanced coordination gave them advantages similar to Anakin's battle meditation. But his coordination was superior, because it wasn't based on enslaved minds forced into service. His soldiers wanted to be coordinated, their wills aligned by choice rather than chains. "Another kill," Rex reported. "Their formation is fracturing." Indeed, the Sea-Rook ships were struggling to maintain their coordination against the overwhelming pressure of Anakin's synchronized fleet. 2 more vessels went down in rapid succession, their hybrid hulls torn apart by concentrated firepower. But then, something unexpected happened. One of the damaged Sea-Rook ships, listing badly with fires burning across its hull, suddenly turned directly toward an Alliance cruiser and accelerated. It was a suicide run, but worse than that, Anakin could feel through the Force what the ship was about to do. "All ships, that vessel is going to detonate its entekment cores," Anakin shouted both verbally and through battle meditation. "Evasive action now." His warning came just in time. The targeted cruiser threw itself into a desperate evasive maneuver, aided by battle meditation coordination that allowed nearby ships to adjust their positions to give it room. The Sea-Rook ship exploded. The blast was horrific, not just physically destructive but psychically devastating. Thousands of trapped souls were released simultaneously in an explosion of agony that rippled through the Force like a shockwave. Anakin staggered, his battle meditation flickering as the psychic blast hit his expanded consciousness. "Lord Commander," Ahsoka's voice cut through the mental static. "Your coordination is failing. We're losing synchronization." Anakin fought to maintain his concentration. The screaming of released souls echoed in his mind, their final moments of torment searing into his awareness. But he couldn't let it break him. Too many lives depended on his coordination. He drew on his Grey Knight training, channeling the pain rather than letting it overwhelm him. The suffering of those released souls became fuel for his determination. They had died in agony because of the Sea-Rook. Their deaths would not be meaningless, they would be avenged. His battle meditation solidified, stronger than before. The fleet's coordination resumed with renewed intensity. "All ships," Anakin commanded, his voice hard with righteous fury. "Destroy them, every single one. They will not escape to trap more souls." The Alliance fleet fell upon the Sea-Rook with overwhelming force. Anakin's battle meditation coordinated every movement, every weapon discharge, every tactical adjustment with precision that made resistance futile. One by one, the alien ships were destroyed, some exploding in those horrible soul-releasing blasts, others simply being torn apart by concentrated firepower. When the last Sea-Rook ship went down, the battle had lasted 47 minutes and cost the Alliance 3 escort vessels and approximately 400 casualties. The Sea-Rook had lost all 37 ships. But the psychic toll was far worse than the physical casualties. Anakin released his battle meditation and immediately collapsed into his command chair, his mind reeling from the sustained coordination and the psychic trauma of feeling thousands of souls die in agony. "It's done," he said weakly. "First engagement successful. At what cost, sir?" Cody asked quietly, having monitored the psychological readings throughout the battle. "Our troops are shaken. That explosion, they all felt it through your coordination. They felt those people die. Good, Anakin replied, surprising his officers. Let them feel it. Let them understand exactly what we're fighting against. The Seerook don't just kill their enemies, they trap their souls in eternal torment. Every soldier in this fleet now knows that viscerally. It will make them fight harder, or it will traumatize them, Ahsoka said softly. Perhaps both. But better to be traumatized by truth than comfortable in ignorance. We rest briefly, then continue the advance. The colony world is still ahead, and those 15,000 people are still suffering. As the fleet regrouped and began moving deeper into Seerook territory, Anakin meditated on what had just happened. His first true combat deployment of battle meditation had been successful tactically, but the psychic cost was higher than he'd anticipated. Feeling his soldiers' consciousness meant feeling their pain, their fear, their trauma. And when enemies died in ways that created psychic shockwaves, everyone connected to his coordination felt it. The burden of battle meditation was heavier than he'd imagined, but it was a burden he would carry, because the alternative was letting the Seerook continue their abominations uncontested. Over the following week, the First Legion pushed deeper into Seerook territory. Each system they entered showed evidence of the aliens' horrific practices. Worlds stripped of intelligent life, their populations having been processed for entekment. Shipyards where vessels were constructed with living beings, integrated into their circuitry. Research facilities where scientists experimented with more efficient methods of extracting consciousness. Anakin ordered everything destroyed. No salvage, he commanded as they reduced another Seerook installation to rubble. Nothing from their technology survives. The knowledge of entekment dies with them. His officers obeyed without question. After that first battle, after feeling the death screams of thousands of trapped souls, no one in the fleet had any sympathy for the Seerook. They had become the enemy in the purest sense, beings so fundamentally evil that their elimination was justice rather than genocide. The battle meditation grew more refined with each engagement. Anakin learned to anticipate the psychic backlash when entekment vessels were destroyed, shielding his connected soldiers from the worst of it while still allowing them to feel enough to maintain their righteous anger. The battle psychers developed their own techniques for filtering the trauma while amplifying coordination, becoming indispensable to the fleet's operations. We're approaching the colony world, Cody reported as they entered yet another system. Sensors indicate heavy Seerook presence. At least 100 vessels, plus orbital defenses. And the colonists? Anakin asked. Thermal signatures suggest they've established processing facilities on the surface, probably converting the remaining population as we speak. 15,000 people, being fed into machines that would trap their consciousness in eternal suffering. Every moment Anakin delayed meant more victims added to the Seerook's horrific inventory. Battle psychers, prepare for sustained coordination, Anakin ordered. This will be our largest engagement yet. I'll need maximum relay efficiency to coordinate the entire fleet through what's ahead. We're ready, Sky Guy, Ahsoka replied. We've all been practicing the trauma filtering. We can handle it. Anakin settled into his coordination chamber as the fleet approached the Seerook defensive line. 100 ships was more than double what they'd faced in that first engagement. This would be a true test of his battle meditation capabilities. He expanded his consciousness, feeling his 15,000 soldiers click into place within his awareness. The battle psychers took their positions in the mental network, ready to amplify and relay. The entire fleet became a single organism with Anakin as its guiding mind. All ships, he projected, execute Operation Liberation. Primary objective, clear orbital defenses. Secondary objective, establish ground insertion corridor. Tertiary objective, rescue surviving colonists. No prisoners, no mercy for the enemy. Absolute focus on saving our people. The fleet surged forward into the Seerook defensive formation. Immediately, chaos erupted. The aliens had learned from their earlier defeats. Their formation was spread wide, preventing the concentrated firepower tactics that had worked before. Their weapons fired in overlapping patterns, creating kill zones that would be suicide to enter conventionally. But conventionally wasn't how Anakin's fleet fought. Through battle meditation, he perceived the entire battlefield simultaneously. He saw the gaps in the Searook formation before they appeared, anticipated their weapons' fire patterns, understood their coordination strategy, and through that understanding, he found their weaknesses. Strike Force Alpha, advance through coordinates 773, he projected. Defense Group Beta, shield their approach. Attack Groups Gamma and Delta, execute flanking maneuvers at 30-degree offset. The orders would have been too complex for conventional command structures. But through battle meditation, every soldier understood not just what to do, but why, feeling the tactical intention behind the specific orders. They moved as one, thousands of soldiers and dozens of ships executing a battle plan that adapted in real time to enemy responses. The Searook tried to adjust, but they were fighting blind compared to Anakin's expanded awareness. Where they saw individual ships making individual movements, he saw a coordinated whole. Where they reacted to threats, he anticipated them. Where they fought as separate units connected by enslaved minds, he fought as a unified consciousness guided by willing cooperation. Multiple kills, Rex reported excitedly. Their formation is collapsing. The Searook defensive line was indeed crumbling. Ships that had been positioned perfectly were suddenly out of place as the Alliance fleet exploited gaps with precision coordination. Weapons that had created deadly crossfire zones now hit empty space as their targets moved with prescient awareness. But the Searook had learned another lesson from their defeats: the suicide weapon. Lord Commander, Ahsoka's warning came through the mental link with urgency. Multiple enemy vessels breaking formation and accelerating toward our ships. They're going to detonate. Anakin saw it through his expanded awareness: 7 Searook ships abandoning defense in favor of kamikaze attacks. Each one was heading toward a different Alliance vessel, spreading the threat too wide to counter conventionally. But he wasn't fighting conventionally. All targeted vessels, execute evasion pattern Omega-6. Support ships, intercept with concentrated fire. Battle psychers, prepare for psychic shielding, multiple detonations incoming. The mental commands went out simultaneously to every relevant soldier. The targeted Alliance ships threw themselves into evasive maneuvers, their pilots feeling through battle meditation exactly where they needed to go. Support ships opened fire on the approaching kamikazes, their weapons coordinated to intercept. 5 of the 7 suicide ships were destroyed before reaching their targets. The 6th was slowed enough that its intended victim escaped the blast radius. The 7th got through. The Alliance cruiser Pride of Alderaan took the full impact. The Searook ship detonated against its hull, and the psychic shockwave that resulted was devastating. Thousands of trapped souls released their death screams simultaneously, the agony rippling through the Force and into Anakin's battle meditation. He had prepared for it. The battle psychers had prepared for it, but nothing could fully prepare for feeling hundreds of minds dying in torment. The coordination flickered, soldiers throughout the fleet staggering as the psychic backlash hit them. For a critical moment, the synchronized movement that had given them such advantage dissolved into chaos. The Searook exploited the opening immediately, their remaining ships pressing the attack with renewed ferocity. "Stabilize!" Anakin shouted both verbally and mentally, forcing his consciousness to maintain the coordination despite the trauma. "Use the pain. Channel it. Those people died because we weren't fast enough. Don't let their deaths be meaningless." It was brutal psychology, using his soldiers' trauma as motivation. But it worked. The fleet's coordination reasserted itself, stronger and more determined. The pain became purpose. The horror became fury. And that fury found its target in the Searook ships. The aliens never stood a chance after that. What had been a difficult battle became a slaughter as Anakin's fleet fell upon them with coordinated vengeance. Ship after ship was destroyed, their crews dying with the knowledge that their victims' suffering had finally brought justice. When the orbital defenses finally collapsed, only 12 Alliance vessels had been lost compared to all 100 Searook ships destroyed. "Establish ground insertion perimeter," Anakin ordered, releasing the combat coordination slightly to reduce his mental strain. "Landing forces, prepare for surface operation. We're going to get those colonists back." The surface of the colony world was a nightmare made manifest. Anakin led the ground assault personally, his silver armor gleaming under the planet's pale sun as he descended from his landing craft. Around him, Proto-Space Marines secured the perimeter with professional efficiency, their enhanced senses scanning for threats while their minds remained connected to his reduced battle meditation. The Searook had converted the colony's central city into a processing facility. What had once been homes and businesses were now filled with the machinery of entechment devices designed to extract consciousness from living beings and trap it in circuits. The equipment hummed with an almost organic sound, and through the Force, Anakin could feel the agony of those already processed. "Sir, we've got resistance forming at the facility entrance," Rex reported. "Searook ground troops with heavy weapons. They're not going to let us in easily." "They don't have a choice," Anakin replied. "Battle psychers, full coordination for ground assault. All units, we're going in." He expanded his battle meditation to encompass the ground forces, approximately 3,000 Proto-Space Marines who would assault the facility. Compared to the fleet coordination, this was manageable, allowing him to maintain tighter control while still preserving mental energy. "Execute breach protocol," he commanded, and his soldiers moved as one. The Searook defenders opened fire with their entechment-powered weapons. The beams were just as devastating on ground as in space. Wherever they struck, they sought to capture rather than kill, designed to incapacitate targets for processing rather than destroy them. But Anakin's coordinated forces were nearly impossible to hit. They moved through the weapon fire with choreographed precision, each soldier knowing exactly where their comrades would be, where the enemy would fire, where safety could be found. It was like watching a dance where every participant knew every step before it was taken. Breaching, Team Auric, engage main entrance. Support Teams Besh and Kresh, provide covering fire. Team Dorn, secure flanks. The orders flowed through battle meditation with perfect clarity. Proto-Space Marines executed complex tactical maneuvers that would have required minutes of coordination under conventional command, accomplishing them in seconds through mental synchronization. The Searook defenders, despite their ferocity, were overwhelmed. Their weapons couldn't hit targets that moved with prescient awareness, and their defensive positions were flanked by enemies who seemed to know every blind spot. Anakin personally led the breach into the main facility. His lightsaber, ignited for the first time in this campaign, cut through the reinforced doors like they were paper. Inside, the true horror of Searook technology was revealed. Rows upon rows of entechment machines lined the facility's interior. Each machine contained a transparent chamber where human colonists were suspended in some kind of preservation gel, their bodies kept alive while sophisticated apparatus extracted their consciousness. The process was clearly agonizing, even unconscious. The victims' faces were contorted in expressions of extreme pain, and Anakin could feel every one of them through the Force. Thousands of minds screaming in silence, their consciousness being ripped from their bodies strand by strand and transferred into the waiting circuits of Searook technology. "By the Force," Ahsoka breathed, having followed him into the facility. "They're still being processed. We can save them." "Some of them," Anakin corrected grimly, his Force senses telling him the truth. "The ones recently connected might be recoverable, but those whose extraction is complete." He pointed to machines where the human bodies had gone still, their consciousness already fully transferred. "They're already gone, trapped in those circuits. Can't we transfer them back? I don't know. We'd need to study the technology, and we're under orders to destroy all of it." The moral dilemma hit him like a physical blow. If they destroyed the entechment equipment as ordered, they would be killing all the trapped consciousnesses, granting them death instead of eternal suffering, but killing them nonetheless. If they tried to save them by studying the technology, they risked that knowledge being used to create more victims. "Lord Commander," one of the battle psychers reported, "I can feel the trapped consciousnesses. They're aware. They're begging for death. The pain is indescribable." Anakin closed his eyes and reached out through the Force to the trapped souls. The psyker was right, they were aware, and their suffering was beyond anything physical torture could inflict. To exist as pure consciousness with no body, no senses except pain, no hope of release, it was a hell that made death seem merciful. "Continue the sweep," Anakin ordered. "Free anyone who hasn't been fully processed. For the rest," he took a deep breath, "we end their suffering. Destroy the machines." It was the hardest order he'd ever given. As Proto-Space Marines moved through the facility, They freed colonists who were still connected to their bodies, approximately 2,000 survivors out of the 15,000 originally captured. The rest had already been fully processed, their consciousness trapped in circuits that would eventually be installed in Searook ships and weapons. For those, the soldiers destroyed the machines. Each destruction released the trapped souls, allowing them finally to die. Anakin felt every release through the Force, not the agonized death screams of combat, but something different. Relief, gratitude, freedom from suffering so intense that oblivion was a mercy. "Thank you," he heard whispered through the Force, thousands of voices speaking as one. "Thank you for ending it." Tears streamed down Anakin's face beneath his helmet. He had killed before many times, in many battles. But this was different. This was mercy killing on a massive scale, destroying lives that had already been taken by the Searook's technology. It felt right and wrong simultaneously, necessary and horrific. "Anakin." Ahsoka's voice was gentle, feeling his turmoil through their battle meditation connection. "You gave them peace. That's not murder, that's compassion." "Is it?" "They didn't choose death. They were trapped, and I chose for them. You chose release from suffering they would have endured for years, possibly decades. Every consciousness we freed from those machines would have been used to power weapons that killed more people, creating more victims. You broke the cycle. That's mercy, Sky Guy. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Before Anakin could respond, Rex's voice crackled through the communication system. "Lord Commander, we've secured the facility. 2,300 survivors recovered. The rest." He paused. "We've done what needed to be done. All processing equipment destroyed. Any Searook survivors? Negative, sir. They fought to the last. Seems they'd rather die than face justice for what they've done. Then they got off easy. Prepare the survivors for evacuation. We're not done here yet." "Sir, the Searook have more facilities, more ships, more entekment victims throughout their territory. This colony was just one atrocity among many. We continue until every single machine is destroyed and every captive is freed or granted mercy." The campaign continued. Over the following weeks, the First Legion systematically swept through Searook space, destroying everything related to their entekment technology. The pattern was always the same. Anakin would coordinate the fleet through battle meditation to destroy orbital defenses, then ground forces would assault surface facilities, freeing whoever could be saved, and mercifully destroying the rest. The psychological toll on the soldiers was immense. Even hardened proto-space marines struggled with the constant exposure to suffering on such a massive scale. The battle psychers worked overtime providing mental health support, their Force abilities allowing them to help soldiers process trauma that would have broken normal humans. But they continued, because the alternative was letting the horror persist. "Sir, intelligence reports indicate we're approaching the Searook homeworld," Cody reported during a strategy session. "It's heavily defended their entire remaining fleet, estimated at 300 vessels, plus planetary defenses that make what we've faced so far look minor." Anakin studied the tactical projections, his enhanced mind processing the information while his Force senses reached out to touch the distant system. Even from here, he could feel the concentration of suffering. The Searook homeworld was the center of their entekment technology, where millions of trapped consciousnesses powered their entire civilization. "How many victims?" he asked quietly. "Intelligence estimates based on their population and technology requirements suggest millions, sir. Possibly tens of millions of sentient beings trapped in their systems. Tens of millions." The number was staggering. Anakin had already felt thousands die when machines were destroyed. To feel tens of millions simultaneously. "We have to do it," Ahsoka said, reading his thoughts. "As long as those souls remain trapped, the suffering continues. And if we leave the Searook homeworld intact, they'll rebuild and start capturing new victims." "I know. He took a breath. "Coordinate with all battle psychers. We need maximum mental shielding for what's coming. When we destroy their homeworld's entekment infrastructure, the psychic backlash will be unlike anything we've experienced. Everyone needs to be prepared." "What about you?" Rex asked. "With your battle meditation active, you'll be more vulnerable to that psychic feedback than anyone. Then I'll need to be strong enough to handle it." The Emperor trained me to channel suffering into purpose. I'll have to channel the suffering of millions to give them peace." Anakin stood, his expression resolute. "Prepare the fleet. We end this tomorrow." The assault on the Cyruk homeworld began at dawn. 300 enemy vessels formed a defensive sphere around the planet, their formation tight and overlapping, presenting a wall of weapons that would be suicide to charge conventionally. The planet itself bristled with surface-to-space weapons, each one powered by entechment technology that gave them capabilities beyond conventional systems. Anakin activated his battle meditation, expanding his consciousness to encompass the entire fleet. 15,000 soldiers clicked into his awareness, their minds ready to receive his coordination. 50 battle psychers took their positions in the mental network, prepared to amplify his intentions while filtering the inevitable trauma. "All ships," Anakin projected. "This is the final battle. The Cyruk end today. Their abomination ends today. For every soul they've trapped, for every consciousness they've tortured, for every life they've stolen, we bring justice. Execute Operation Extinction." The fleet moved as one, a single massive organism with Anakin as its guiding mind. They didn't charge directly into the defensive sphere. Instead, they executed a complex three-dimensional maneuver that exploited subtle gaps in the Cyruk formation. The battle was brutal from the start. 300 enemy ships versus the Alliance's reduced fleet of approximately 90 vessels meant they were badly outnumbered. But numbers meant little when Anakin's battle meditation allowed his forces to fight with perfect coordination against enemies operating on conventional command structures. "Concentrate fire on Sector 7, Anakin commanded through mental projection. 37 ships focus on that single point in their formation. Break through and split them. The precision was devastating. 37 Alliance vessels simultaneously targeted the same small section of the Cyruk defensive sphere, their weapons converging with mathematical accuracy. The alien ships in that sector tried to reinforce, but Anakin had anticipated their movement. Before they could reposition, the targeted area was destroyed, creating a gap in their formation. "All ships, exploit the breach. Drive through and fragment their coordination." The Alliance fleet poured through the opening like water through a broken dam. Suddenly, the Cyruk found themselves fighting on two fronts, as enemies were both outside and inside their defensive sphere. Their formation, which had been their greatest strength, became their weakness, as ships couldn't fire freely without risking hitting their own vessels. The battle raged for hours. Ships were destroyed on both sides, the void of space filling with debris and the dying screams of trapped souls as entechment-powered vessels exploded. Anakin maintained his battle meditation throughout. His consciousness stretched across thousands of minds while he coordinated the most complex engagement of his career. "Sir, we've broken their fleet," Rex reported triumphantly. "They're retreating toward the planet. Don't let them regroup. Continue pursuit, but be wary of planetary defenses." The remnants of the Cyruk fleet fell back toward their homeworld, their numbers reduced from 300 to less than 100 operational vessels. But as the Alliance fleet approached, the planetary defenses activated. Massive weapons batteries opened fire, their beams cutting through space with power that dwarfed anything the fleet had faced. These weren't ship-mounted weapons, these were installations powered by millions of trapped consciousnesses. Their collected suffering converted into destructive energy that made space itself ripple with wrongness. "Evasive patterns. All ships disperse and avoid concentration," Anakin commanded, feeling the danger through his expanded awareness. But the planetary weapons were too powerful, too numerous, too precisely targeted. Despite battle meditation coordination, ships began falling. The cruiser Resolute was hit directly, its shields failing instantly as the entechment-powered beam tore through its hull. Anakin felt the 3,000 minds aboard wink out of his awareness as the ship exploded. No. The loss hit him hard, but he couldn't let it break his concentration. Too many others depended on his coordination. "Lord Commander," Ahsoka's voice cut through his shock, "we can't survive these planetary defenses at this range. We need to either retreat or destroy them from orbit." "We're not retreating. Not when we're this close." Anakin reached deeper into his battle meditation, pushing his awareness to encompass not just his fleet but the planetary weapons themselves. Through the Force, He could feel the millions of trapped consciousnesses powering those weapons, feel their agony, their desperation, their silent pleas for release. A terrible idea formed in his mind. All ships, maintain distance from planetary weapons. I'm going to try something. Sky Guy, whatever you're thinking, trust me, Ahsoka. Just maintain the fleet's position and be ready to shield everyone's minds. Anakin closed his eyes and focused his force awareness on the planetary weapons. Not on their physical structure, but on their power source, the millions of trapped minds screaming in their circuits. He reached out to them, not to control but to communicate. You are suffering, he projected. You have been imprisoned, your consciousness stolen, your pain used as fuel. I offer you release, freedom. Death, yes, but death as mercy compared to your current torment. Help me destroy those who did this to you. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Anakin felt responses filtering back through the Force. Millions of voices, all speaking variations of the same desperate plea. Free us, please, free us, make it stop. I will, Anakin promised. But I need your help. Your consciousness controls those weapons. Turn them against your captors. Give yourselves one final act of freedom before I grant you peace. It was an insane gamble. He was asking trapped souls to use their last moments of existence to strike back at those who had imprisoned them. It was manipulation on a scale that troubled him deeply. But it worked. The planetary weapons, which had been firing at the Alliance fleet, suddenly began to shift their targeting. The Searook technicians must have noticed immediately because Anakin could feel their panic through the Force, their confusion as the systems they thought they controlled stopped responding. The weapons turned inward. Massive Intechman-powered beams that had been designed to destroy attacking fleets instead began firing at the Searook's own installations. Processing facilities exploded as their own defenses turned against them. Shipyards were destroyed, communication centers were obliterated, and through it all, Anakin could feel the trapped consciousnesses finally given agency after who knew how long in captivity, using their last moments to exact revenge on their tormentors. Thank you. Millions of voices whispered as they used the weapons they powered to destroy themselves along with their captors. Thank you for letting us fight back. Thank you for ending it. Then they were gone. Their consciousnesses released as the planetary weapons destroyed themselves, along with the infrastructure that had imprisoned them. The psychic backlash was beyond anything Anakin had prepared for. Millions of souls released simultaneously created a shockwave through the Force that hit him like a physical blow. He screamed, his consciousness fragmenting as the overwhelming death cry of millions threatened to shatter his mind. Through his battle meditation, the backlash rippled out to every connected soldier, threatening to break their minds as well. But the battle psychers were ready. 50 Force users simultaneously threw their power into mental shielding, absorbing and filtering the psychic trauma before it could destroy the soldiers under Anakin's coordination. Ahsoka led the effort, her connection to Anakin allowing her to place herself between his mind and the worst of the backlash. "Hold on, Sky Guy," she shouted through their mental link. "We've got you. Just hold on." It felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. Slowly, the psychic storm subsided. The millions of trapped souls had found their release, their death cries fading into the Force like echoes in a vast cavern. When Anakin opened his eyes, he found himself lying on the bridge floor, his armor scorched from the psychic energy that had cascaded through him. His head pounded with the worst pain he'd ever experienced, and his connection to battle meditation had been completely severed. "Report," he croaked, his voice barely functional. "The planetary defenses are destroyed," Cody informed him, his voice shaking slightly. "The Searook fleet is in complete disarray without their ground support. Their homeworld is. It's essentially been bombed back to pre-spaceflight conditions by its own weapons. Casualties? 12 ships lost in the engagement. Approximately 4,000 soldiers dead, but sir, you saved tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. When those weapons turned inward, they killed far more Searook than they did Alliance forces." Anakin struggled to his feet with help from Rex and Ahsoka. Through the viewport, he could see the Searook homeworld, once the center of a spacefaring civilization, now burning with dozens of impact craters where its own weapons had struck. "Finish it," he ordered. "Destroy the remaining Searook vessels." Ground troops prepare for surface assault. Any survivors who surrender will be taken prisoner. Any who resist will be eliminated," Rex finished. "Understood, sir." The battle psychers helped Anakin re-establish his battle meditation, though at much lower intensity than before. His mind was too strained for full coordination, but he could still provide enough synchronization to maintain fleet effectiveness. The final phase of the Sea-Rook campaign lasted another week. Surface assaults, mop-up operations, and the systematic destruction of any remaining entekment technology. By the end, the Sea-Rook as a spacefaring civilization had ceased to exist. They weren't completely extinct. Small populations remained on their homeworld, reduced to primitive conditions without the technology that had defined their society. But their ability to threaten other species, their capability to practice entekment on captured victims, was gone forever. The First Legion had completed its mission. The journey back to Alliance space was subdued. Despite the victory, the soldiers were exhausted mentally more than physically. Weeks of exposure to suffering on a scale that transcended normal warfare had left marks on even the most hardened proto-space marines. Anakin spent much of the return journey in meditation, processing what he had experienced and done. The Sea-Rook campaign had been necessary, he still believed that completely. Their entekment technology represented such a fundamental evil that allowing it to continue would have been a greater crime than destroying it. But that didn't make the killing any easier to bear. "You're brooding," Ahsoka observed, joining him in his meditation chamber. "I can feel it, even without trying. Processing, not brooding. There's a difference." "If you say so." She settled beside him, her presence comforting in its familiarity. "Want to talk about it?" "I killed millions, Ahsoka. Even if they were suffering, even if they begged for death, even if their release was mercy, I still killed millions. How do I reconcile that with the boy who dreamed of freeing slaves, of ending suffering, of protecting the innocent? You freed them from slavery more absolute than chains. You ended suffering more terrible than anything we can imagine. You protected the innocent by ensuring no more victims would be created. Anakin, you did exactly what that boy dreamed of doing, you just did it on a scale he never imagined. And what about the Sea-Rook themselves? They're not extinct, but their civilization is destroyed. Millions of them died. Most weren't soldiers, they were engineers, scientists, civilians. I killed civilians, Ahsoka. Civilians who benefited from and supported a society built on the torture of other sentient beings. Every Sea-Rook used entekment technology daily. Every one of them was complicit in the suffering of millions. I know that's harsh, but it's also true. Anakin was quiet for a long moment. The Emperor warned me about this. He said that sometimes protecting the greater good requires monstrous actions. I understood that intellectually. But feeling those millions die, even as they thanked me for releasing them, it changes you, Ahsoka. I'm not the same person who left Coruscant. No, you're not. You're stronger, more capable, and more aware of the costs of leadership. That awareness is what separates you from monsters who kill without concern. You feel the weight of every death, and you carry that weight so others don't have to. That's what being a Grey Knight means, isn't it? She was right. And Anakin knew it. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally were different things. "Thank you," he finally said, "for being here, for helping filter the worst of the psychic backlash during the campaign. Without you and the other psychers, I don't think I would have survived intact. That's what we're here for. To support you so you can support everyone else. We're stronger together than alone." Before Anakin could respond, an urgent alert sounded throughout the ship. Rex's voice came through the intercom. "Lord Commander to the bridge immediately. Priority message from Alliance Command." Anakin and Ahsoka exchanged concerned glances before hurrying to the bridge. When they arrived, they found the command staff gathered around the main holographic display, their expressions ranging from concern to outright fear. "What's happened?" Anakin demanded. "Long-range sensors from our unknown regions bases, sir," Cody reported, his voice tight. "They've detected massive fleet movement, thousands of ships. Configuration matches. Yuuzhan Vong," Anakin finished, ice forming in his gut. "Confirmed. At least 4,000 world ships, accompanied by tens of thousands of support vessels. Preliminary estimates suggest a warrior count in the tens of millions. Sir, this isn't a raid or a revenge strike. This is the invasion the Emperor warned about. They're coming for the entire galaxy. Anakin stared at the display, showing the Vong fleet's trajectory. They were entering the unknown regions through multiple corridors, their approach vectors suggesting they had learned from the previous defeats and were coming from several directions simultaneously. How long until they reach our forward bases? He asked. At their current speed, approximately 3 months. If they proceed directly to the galactic core, they could reach major populated systems within 6 to 8 months. 6 months. They had 6 months before the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced would be upon them. Send a message to the Emperor immediately, Anakin ordered. Tell him the main invasion has begun. We need to recall all forces, coordinate with the Chiss Ascendancy, and prepare every defensive position we have. This is what we've been preparing for. Sir, the Searook campaign has depleted our forces. We've lost nearly a third of the fleet and thousands of soldiers. We're not at full strength for something this big. Then we'd better get to full strength quickly. Set course for Coruscant. Maximum speed. The Emperor needs to know what we've learned about battle meditation, and we need to integrate our tactics with the rest of the Alliance military. This is going to take everything we have, and more. As the fleet adjusted course for home, Anakin felt the weight of what was coming settling on his shoulders. The Searook had been practice, as the Emperor had said. Horrific, traumatizing practice, but practice nonetheless. The real war was about to begin. The message reached the Emperor before the fleet did. By the time Anakin's ships entered Coruscant's orbit, the entire galaxy was mobilizing. Military communications buzzed with activity as reserves were called up, defensive positions were reinforced, and weapons production shifted to maximum output. The peaceful years since the Clone Wars' end were over. War was coming again, on a scale that made the Separatist conflict look minor. Anakin was immediately summoned to the Imperial Palace upon arrival. He went still in his battle-scarred armor, not bothering to change. The Emperor needed his report, and formalities meant nothing compared to galactic survival. The throne room felt different this time. The usual sense of measured power was replaced by something more intense, the focused energy of a being preparing for total war. The God Emperor sat upon his throne, but his posture suggested action rather than contemplation. Lord Commander, the Emperor said as Anakin knelt. Your report on the Searook campaign. Complete elimination achieved, Master. The Searook no longer possess the capability to threaten Alliance space. Their entekment technology has been destroyed. However, he took a breath. The campaign was costly, not just in material losses, but in psychological impact on the troops. And in personal cost. I killed millions, Master. Even mercy killings weigh heavily. As they should. The day you kill millions without psychological impact is the day you become unfit for command. But you succeeded where others would have failed or broken. Your battle meditation performed as intended? Beyond intended, Master. I coordinated 15,000 minds through sustained combat operations, achieved tactical synchronization that made conventional command structures obsolete, and even managed to psychically communicate with the entekment victims, convincing them to turn their weapons against their captors. The Emperor's golden eyes gleamed with intense interest. You communicated with them? Through the Force? Yes, Master. They were aware, despite being trapped in circuits. I reached out to them, offered them release through death, and they used their final moments of control to strike back at the Searook. It was devastating. The psychic backlash nearly killed me, but it didn't kill you. Instead, you have proven that battle meditation can affect not just willing minds, but any consciousness accessible through the Force. This is significant, Anakin, more significant than you realize. How so? The Yuuzhan Vong do not exist in the Force. You cannot sense them, cannot touch their minds, cannot influence them directly through psychic means. That has always been their greatest advantage against Force users. But their living ships, their biotech, those exist in the Force, just as the Searook's entekment victims did. If you can influence those organic systems, Anakin understood immediately. I could potentially turn their biotechnology against them. just as I turned the entekment weapons against the Cyruk. Potentially. It would be far more difficult. Their living ships are not conscious in the same way, not suffering and seeking release. But the principle applies. Your battle meditation is not limited to coordinating willing allies. It can touch any force-present consciousness. We will explore this further in the coming months. Months, Master. The Vong invasion force is 3 months from our forward bases. We don't have time for extended training. No, we do not. Which is why I am altering the defensive strategy. Previously, I intended to let you handle threats while I remained on Coruscant, providing strategic direction. That is no longer sufficient. The Vong invasion is of such scale that conventional military response, even with battle meditation coordination, will not be enough. Anakin felt his heart rate increase. Was the Emperor suggesting what he thought he was suggesting? Master, are you saying? I am saying that when the Yuuzhan Vong main fleet arrives, I will meet them personally. The God Emperor of mankind will take the field of battle for the first time in this galaxy. They believe their gods are superior to all powers? They will learn otherwise. The statement hung in the air with the weight of destiny. The Emperor, leaving his throne on Coruscant to engage in direct combat. It was unprecedented, potentially reckless, and utterly necessary. Your battle plans, Master, Anakin asked, will be revealed in time. For now, your role is clear. You will spend the next months training additional battle psychers, expanding the Proto-Space Marine program, and coordinating with Thrawn on defensive positioning. Your battle meditation will be crucial in the coming conflict, coordinating not just the First Legion but potentially the entire Alliance military across multiple battlefronts. Coordinating the entire military? That's millions of soldiers across light years of space. I've managed 15,000. Millions would be. Impossible for the man you were. But you are no longer that man. You are a Grey Knight who has touched millions of minds simultaneously during the Siruk campaign, who has maintained battle meditation through hours of sustained combat, who has proven that your consciousness can expand to scales no Force user in this galaxy has ever achieved. Yes, Anakin, you will coordinate millions. Because if you do not, we lose. And we will not lose. Not when the entire galaxy's survival depends on our success. The enormity of what the Emperor was describing should have been terrifying. And it was, in a way. But it was also exactly what Anakin had been training for, what his entire journey had been building toward. I understand, Master. I won't fail. I know you will not. Now go. See your family, they have missed you. But know that your respite will be brief. Training resumes in 1 week. We have 3 months to prepare for the war that will determine this galaxy's future. Every moment must count. Anakin bowed and departed, his mind already racing with the preparations that needed to be made. As he made his way toward his apartment and the family waiting there, he felt the familiar pull of competing duties. Father and husband on one side, Grey Knight and Lord Commander on the other. For a brief time, he could be the former. But soon, far too soon, he would need to become the latter fully. The Yuuzhan Vong were coming, and when they arrived, they would face not just Anakin Skywalker, master of battle meditation, but the God Emperor of mankind himself. The true war was about to begin. The 3 months before the Yuuzhan Vong's projected arrival became the most intense period of preparation the Galactic Alliance had ever undertaken. Every shipyard worked around the clock producing warships. Every military academy accelerated its training programs. Every Proto-Space Marine Legion was brought to full strength and beyond. Anakin spent those months in a blur of activity that would have killed a normal human from exhaustion. His days were divided between training new battle psychers, coordinating with Thrawn via long-range communication, briefing Alliance military commanders on battle meditation integration, and pushing his own abilities to their absolute limits. The Emperor had been clear. When the Vong arrived, Anakin needed to coordinate not just his First Legion, but potentially millions of soldiers across multiple battlefronts. The scale was staggering, but failure was not an option. "You're pushing yourself too hard," Padme observed one evening when Anakin returned to their apartment, looking like he hadn't slept in days, which he hadn't. "Even with your enhancements, you need rest." Rest is a luxury we don't have, Anakin replied, collapsing into a chair. Every hour I spend sleeping is an hour I could be training another psyker or refining my coordination techniques. The Vong won't wait for me to be well rested. And what good will you be in the battle if you've burned yourself out before it begins? Padme knelt beside him, her expression a mixture of concern and frustration. Anakin, you're not invincible. I know the Emperor has enhanced you beyond normal human limitations, but you're still mortal. Still flesh and blood beneath that armor. Am I? The question came out more bitter than he'd intended. Sometimes I wonder, the things I can do now, the minds I can touch, the way I perceive reality when I'm in battle meditation. It doesn't feel human anymore, Padme. It feels like something else. Then hold on to what makes you human. Your love for your children, your sense of justice, your doubt and questioning. Those are human traits, Anakin. Don't let them be burned away in your preparation for war. He took her hand, feeling her warmth grounding him in ways that his expanded consciousness sometimes made him forget. You're right. I'm sorry. The weight of it, Padme. Millions of lives depending on my ability to coordinate them. If I fail, if my battle meditation falters at a critical moment, then you'll adapt. You'll find another way. You've never let failure stop you before you've learned from it and grown stronger. That won't change just because the stakes are higher. Before Anakin could respond, Luke and Leia burst into the room, their 7-year-old energy filling the space with life. Daddy, you're home, Luke exclaimed, launching himself at his father with the force of a small missile. We've been practicing what you taught us, Leia added, slightly more composed but equally excited. Watch. She extended her hand, and 3 small objects on the table rose smoothly into the air, orbiting each other in a complex pattern. Luke concentrated, and 2 more objects joined the display, his control steadier than it had been months ago. Anakin felt tears prickling at his eyes. His children, so young yet so powerful, demonstrating abilities that would have taken years for traditional Jedi to develop. They represented the future he was fighting to protect. That's incredible, he said, genuine pride cutting through his exhaustion. Both of you, you've improved so much. Will you teach us more? Luke asked eagerly. You've been gone so much, and Mom says you're going away again soon for the big battle. The reminder of his impending departure was like a knife to his heart. Soon, he promised. But first, I want to spend time with you both. Real time, not just training. Tomorrow, we'll go to the Senate Gardens like we used to. Just us as a family. Really? Leia's eyes lit up. You promise, I promise. Now why don't you show me what else you've learned while I was away? For the next hour, Anakin forgot about the coming invasion, forgot about battle meditation and millions of lives and galactic survival. He was simply a father watching his children grow, marveling at their potential, and treasuring every moment of normalcy in a life that had become anything but normal. Later that night, after the twins were asleep, Anakin found himself unable to rest despite his exhaustion. He stood on the balcony overlooking Coruscant, his mind reaching out through the Force to touch the vast network of consciousness that surrounded him. Billions of beings going about their lives, unaware of the storm approaching. You feel them, don't you? The Emperor's voice startled him, though he should have sensed his approach. The God Emperor had a way of masking his presence when he chose. Anakin turned to find his master standing in the balcony doorway, golden armor gleaming in the city lights. It was rare for the Emperor to leave the palace, rarer still for him to visit someone's home. Master, I didn't expect. I came to assess your progress personally, the Emperor interrupted, stepping onto the balcony. Your reports have been thorough, but some things must be observed directly. Show me. Without further prompting, Anakin expanded his battle meditation. He reached out through the Force, touching not just his immediate surroundings but the entire city planet. Millions of minds registered in his awareness, then tens of millions, then hundreds of millions. He felt them all, their hopes, their fears, their mundane concerns and secret dreams. The scale was overwhelming, like trying to hold an ocean in his mind. Good, the Emperor observed. You have expanded significantly since the Sea Rook campaign, but you are still trying to hold each mind individually. That approach will not scale to galactic conflict. Show me your coordination. Anakin focused on a small section of the city, perhaps 10,000 beings. He projected a simple intention: look upward. It was a minor suggestion, easily ignorable, but if his coordination worked, below them, across dozens of city blocks, people began glancing at the sky. Not all of them, many were too focused on their own activities, but enough. Thousands of beings suddenly felt compelled to look up, though they couldn't say why. Impressive, the Emperor acknowledged. You influenced thousands simultaneously, but that was a simple suggestion to willing minds. The Vong fleet will not be willing, and your coordination will need to encompass far more than suggestions. You must guide military strategy across light years, coordinate millions of soldiers in real-time combat, anticipate enemy movements before they occur. Are you ready for that? Honestly, I don't know, Master. The scale is beyond anything I've attempted. Even touching hundreds of millions like I just did drains me rapidly. Maintaining that coordination through hours of combat would kill you if you attempted it alone, which is why you will not be alone. The Emperor gestured, and Anakin saw movement in the shadows. Ahsoka and dozens of other battle psychers emerging onto the balcony. They are your network, your amplifiers, your shields. Through them, your consciousness can extend further than any single mind could manage. Together, you become something greater than the sum of your parts. Ahsoka stepped forward, her expression determined. We've been training for this, Sky Guy. Every psyker in the Corps has been practicing amplification techniques. When the battle comes, you won't be holding the entire coordination yourself. We'll be distributed throughout the fleet, each of us carrying a portion of the burden while you maintain the central guidance. A distributed consciousness, Anakin realized. Like a network with multiple nodes, rather than a single processor. Exactly, the Emperor confirmed. Your battle meditation becomes the framework, but each psyker maintains their section of the coordination. You think, they amplify, the soldiers respond. It is the only way to achieve the scale necessary for what comes. Have we tested this? At the scale we'll need? Not yet. But we will. Tomorrow I am ordering a full military exercise, every Proto-Space Marine Legion, every battle psyker, coordinated simultaneously. You will coordinate 1 million soldiers across multiple star systems using relay stations to extend your mental reach. It will be the largest such operation ever attempted. 1 million soldiers. The number was staggering, but Anakin felt something shift inside him, not quite confidence, but acceptance. This was his purpose. This was what all his training had been building toward. I'll be ready, Master. I know you will. Because failure is not an option, and you do not fail when the stakes matter most. Rest tonight, Anakin. Spend time with your family tomorrow as you promised your children. Then we begin the final preparations. The Vong will arrive in 6 weeks. We must be ready. The Emperor departed as silently as he had arrived, leaving Anakin with his battle psychers. He has a lot of faith in you, Ahsoka observed. He has faith in necessity, Anakin corrected. I'm the tool he needs for this job, but that's enough. It has to be. Well, this tool has backup, Corven said with a slight smile. All of us. We won't let you carry this alone. Looking at his psychers, his friends, his support network, his distributed consciousness, Anakin felt something he hadn't felt since the Siru campaign. Hope. Not the desperate hope of someone clinging to slim chances, but the grounded hope of someone who recognized their strengths and trusted their allies. 6 weeks, he said. Let's make them count. The million-soldier exercise was both triumph and trial. Coordinating 1 million minds across 12 star systems pushed Anakin's battle meditation to its absolute limits. Even with the psyker network distributing the burden, the sheer scale of maintaining awareness of so many consciousnesses while simultaneously guiding their actions required concentration beyond anything he'd imagined possible. But it worked. Soldiers on distant worlds moved in coordinated patterns, executing complex maneuvers without verbal communication. Fleet movements synchronized across light years as if conducted by a single commander. The traditional delays of space communication simply ceased to exist. Anakin's battle meditation, amplified through the Psyker network, provided instantaneous coordination that transcended physical limitations. "It's incredible," Thrawn observed via holographic link from his position with the Chiss Ascendancy. The blue-skinned commander had been watching the exercise with his characteristic analytical intensity. "Your forces are responding to tactical adjustments before my own communications can reach them. The delay advantage alone would be decisive in combat, but the strain is immense," Anakin admitted, sweat pouring down his face despite being seated in his coordination chamber. "Maintaining this level of connection for hours of combat, which is why the distribution among Psykers is crucial," Ahsoka added. She was positioned at a relay station, serving as one of the primary amplification nodes. "We're seeing that the load becomes manageable when properly distributed. You're not controlling a million minds, you're providing guidance that flows through 50 Psykers, each of whom maintains their section of the network." "Still," Thrawn mused, "the Yuuzhan Vong will not be as cooperative as your training soldiers. They will actively resist, employ countermeasures, perhaps even develop tactics specifically designed to disrupt your coordination. We must prepare for adaptation." "Agreed," Anakin said. "But this exercise proves the concept is viable. When the Vong arrive, we'll have capabilities they've never faced. They're coming, expecting to fight conventional forces with conventional command structures. They'll find something entirely different." The exercise continued for 12 more hours, with Anakin and his Psykers practicing various scenarios. Sudden communication disruptions, Psyker casualties, multi-front engagements. Each challenge revealed weaknesses that they worked to address, refining their techniques under pressure. When it finally ended, Anakin released his battle meditation and nearly collapsed. His mind felt stretched, like a muscle that had been overworked. But beneath the exhaustion was satisfaction. They had proven that galactic-scale coordination was possible. 2 weeks until projected contact, Cody reported during the post-exercise briefing. "Intelligence from the forward bases indicates the Vong fleet is splitting into 3 major prongs approaching through different sectors simultaneously." "Multi-front assault," Wolf observed grimly. "They've learned from their previous defeats. No single point of failure, no concentrated defense we can prepare." "Which plays into our hands," Anakin countered. "Multi-front warfare is exactly what battle meditation excels at. I can coordinate defensive responses across all 3 prongs simultaneously, something conventional command structures couldn't manage. They think they're exploiting our weakness when they're actually walking into our strength. Provided you can maintain the coordination," Rex said carefully. "No disrespect, sir, but you were barely conscious after 12 hours of exercise. Actual combat will be more intense, more draining. The Vong won't give you rest periods." "Then we rotate," Ahsoka suggested. "Multiple Psykers capable of maintaining limited coordination while Anakin rests and recovers. We take shifts, never letting the network drop completely, but allowing primary coordinators to recuperate." It was a solid suggestion, and they spent the next hours developing protocols for sustained operations. The planning was meticulous, accounting for every contingency they could imagine, but Anakin knew that no plan survived contact with the enemy unchanged. The Vong would surprise them, they always did. The question was whether their preparations were flexible enough to adapt. The Yuuzhan Vong arrived exactly when projected, their massive fleet emerging from dark space across 3 sectors simultaneously. The scale was beyond anything the galaxy had seen, 4,000 world ships, each one a living mountain of bioengineered horror, accompanied by tens of thousands of support vessels. Preliminary estimates suggested a warrior count exceeding 50 million. 50 million fanatics dedicated to the conquest of the galaxy, guided by gods that demanded suffering and sacrifice. Against them stood the combined forces of the Galactic Alliance and Chiss Ascendancy, approximately 2 million soldiers, 12,000 warships, and 1 Grey Knight capable of coordinating them all through a power the Vong had never encountered. Anakin stood in the primary coordination chamber aboard the Indomitable Will, now positioned at the central defensive line. Around him, holographic displays showed the 3 approaching Vong prongs, each one massive enough to overwhelm conventional defenses. "This is it," he murmured, feeling the weight of the moment. The Psyker network was already active. 50 Force users distributed throughout the defensive fleet, each one prepared to serve as amplification nodes for his battle meditation. Ahsoka commanded the Eastern Sector Relay, Corven the Western, and the others filled critical positions throughout the formation. "All units report ready," Rex announced. "The men know what's at stake. They're scared, sir, but they're not breaking. Your reputation precedes you, they believe. If anyone can coordinate us through this, you can." "No pressure," Anakin replied with dark humor. Then more seriously, "Any word from the Emperor? His flagship entered the system an hour ago. He's positioning himself at the central nexus point where all three Vong prongs will converge. He sent one message. When the moment is right, I will show them what it means to face a god." Anakin felt the Emperor's presence in the Force, a golden sun of psychic power that dwarfed everything around it. The God Emperor of mankind had come to war, and the galaxy would tremble at what followed. "Vong fleet entering weapons range in 15 minutes, Cody reported. "They're broadcasting. Let's hear it." Vong La's scarred face appeared on the main screen. The Vong Supreme Commander looked different from their last meeting, older, more weathered, and bearing marks of what appeared to be ritual scarification that hadn't been there before. But his eyes were what truly changed. They held conflict rather than pure certainty. "Anakin Skywalker," Vong La spoke, his voice carrying across the void. "We meet again, as I promised. This time there will be no single combat to decide the outcome. This time, the true gods have blessed us with numbers sufficient to overwhelm any resistance. Your galaxy will fall, and from its ashes, the Yuuzhan Vong will build a new empire dedicated to the glory of Yuuzhan." "Vong La," Anakin replied, his image being transmitted to the Vong fleet. "You speak of gods and glory, but I hear doubt in your voice. Our last meeting changed you. I can sense it even across this distance. You question things now that you accepted blindly before. The warrior who challenged me to single combat would have come with righteous fury. You come with religious obligation, masking philosophical uncertainty." Anger flashed across the Supreme Commander's features, but it was mixed with something else, recognition that Anakin had seen truth. "Your words are poison meant to weaken resolve," Vong La snarled. "They will not work. The Yuuzhan Vong are united in purpose, unstoppable in faith. Then prove it. Attack with your full force, Supreme Commander. But know this, you come expecting to face a broken galaxy with outdated military structures. Instead, you face something new. A force coordinated by powers you cannot comprehend, led by a being whose might makes your gods seem small. You should have stayed beyond the rim, Vong La. Coming here was a mistake you will not survive." The Vong commander's face twisted, but before he could respond, Anakin cut the transmission. "Bold words," Rex observed. "I hope we can back them up. We're about to find out. All units, battle meditation activation in 30 seconds. Psyker network, prepare for full coordination. This is what we trained for. Every sacrifice, every preparation, every moment of practice, it all comes down to this. Let's show the Vong what humanity is capable of." He closed his eyes and reached out through the Force. 2 million minds suddenly filled his awareness, spread across 3 defensive sectors spanning hundreds of light years. The scale was staggering, overwhelming, threatening to fragment his consciousness into uselessness. But the Psyker network engaged, 50 Force users taking portions of the burden, amplifying his guidance while filtering the mental noise. Slowly, incredibly, the coordination stabilized. Anakin could feel every soldier, every ship, every defensive position across the entire battlefront. Not as individual points that would be impossible to process, but as a vast interconnected network where his intentions flowed like water through channels. He thought Eastern Sector strengthened positions, and thousands of soldiers felt that intention and responded. He considered Western Fleet execute flanking preparation, and 1,200 ships began maneuvering in coordinated patterns. "Battle meditation fully active," he reported, his voice distant as most of his consciousness was distributed across the network. "All sectors responsive. Coordination is stable. We're ready." "Vong fleet engaging," Cody announced. "All 3 prongs attacking simultaneously. Here they come." The battle began. The initial Vong assault was overwhelming in its ferocity. Thousands of ships surged forward across 3 sectors, their organic weapons filling space with biological projectiles and plasma that screamed with almost living hatred. The world ships moved like vast leviathans through the void, each one capable of destroying entire fleets on its own. But the Alliance forces responded with coordination that transcended anything the Vong had encountered. In the eastern sector, as a Vong attack wave formed, Ahsoka's portion of the Battle Meditation Network detected the threat pattern milliseconds before it fully developed. Anakin's central guidance interpreted the threat and broadcast response intentions instantaneously to the defending ships. 12 destroyers executed simultaneous evasive maneuvers, while 40 cruisers concentrated fire on the leading world ship, their weapons converging with mathematical precision. The Vong tried to adapt, but the speed of battle meditation coordination made their conventional command responses seem sluggish. By the time their supreme commander could issue new orders, the Alliance forces had already repositioned for the next engagement. "They're confused," Rex reported with grim satisfaction. "Their tactical patterns suggest they expected us to be slower, more predictable. They don't know how to fight an enemy that anticipates their every move." "Good. Press the advantage. All sectors execute offensive pattern Sigma. Drive them back before they can adjust." Through the Psyker network, Anakin's intention flowed to 2 million soldiers simultaneously. Attack wings launched in perfect synchronization across 3 sectors. Ground defenses on fortified worlds opened fire in coordinated barrages. Space stations positioned at strategic points unleashed their weapons in patterns that created interlocking kill zones. The Vong advance, which had seemed unstoppable, began to falter. "They're taking massive casualties," Cody exclaimed. "Our coordination is making their numerical advantage meaningless. They can't form effective attack patterns when we counter them before they fully develop." But Anakin, deep in his battle meditation trance, sensed something shifting. The Vong commanders were adapting faster than anticipated. Already, he could feel them changing tactics, abandoning complex formations in favor of simple, overwhelming force. "They're adjusting," he warned. "Abandoning tactical sophistication for brute force attacks. Prepare for attrition warfare." The shift became apparent within minutes. The Vong stopped trying to outmaneuver the Alliance forces and simply charged directly at their positions with sheer numbers. It was a brutal, inelegant strategy, but against an enemy with superior coordination, it was surprisingly effective. "They're accepting massive casualties to push through our defensive lines," Thrawn observed from his position with the Chiss fleet. "Crude but functional. We can coordinate perfect defenses, but we cannot be everywhere simultaneously. They are willing to sacrifice thousands to overwhelm individual positions." It was true. Despite battle meditation's advantages, Anakin couldn't prevent the Vong from simply throwing bodies at problems. For every world ship they destroyed, 2 more pressed forward. For every assault wave they repelled, another took its place immediately. "We're being ground down," Rex reported grimly. "Casualty rates are within acceptable parameters, but they have a lot more soldiers than we do. This becomes a numbers game we eventually lose." "Then we change the game," Anakin replied, reaching deeper into his battle meditation. "All units, prepare for coordinated withdrawal to secondary positions. We're going to draw them in." "Draw them in where, sir?" "To the convergence point, where the 3 prongs meet, where the Emperor is waiting." The withdrawal was executed with precision that only battle meditation could provide. Across 3 sectors simultaneously, Alliance forces began pulling back in coordinated retreat. Ships that had been fiercely defending positions suddenly abandoned them, falling back in patterns that appeared chaotic but were actually choreographed to perfection. The Vong, seeing their enemy retreat, pressed forward with renewed vigor. Savong La, sensing victory, drove his forces faster, abandoning caution in favor of pursuit. "They're taking the bait," Wolf reported, all 3 prongs accelerating their advance. "They think we're breaking. Let them think that. Continue withdrawal. Draw them all to the convergence point." The 3 Vong prongs, each one a massive force of thousands of ships and millions of warriors, converged on the central system where the Emperor's flagship waited. What had been 3 separate battlefronts became one massive engagement zone, exactly as planned. And at the center of it all, The God Emperor of mankind prepared to reveal himself. "All units, cease withdrawal," Anakin commanded. "Assume defensive formation around the convergence point. We hold them here until the Emperor strikes." 2 million soldiers stopped their retreat and turned to face the Vong pursuers. Ships that had been fleeing suddenly oriented themselves into defensive positions. The trap was set. Vong La realized his mistake too late. His scattered forces, spread across 3 advancing prongs, suddenly found themselves converging on a single point where the entire Alliance defensive force awaited them. His numerical advantage had become a liability as his fleets were too spread out to support each other effectively. "He's calling for formation regroup," Cody reported, monitoring Vong communications. "But our battle meditation is letting us respond faster than they can organize. We've got them disorganized exactly when they need cohesion most." "Good. Now we just need—" Anakin stopped mid-sentence as he felt something through the Force. A presence expanding outward, golden power that made his own considerable abilities seem insignificant. The God Emperor of mankind was making his move. "Look!" someone shouted, pointing at the tactical display. The Emperor's flagship, a vessel modified to his specifications and imbued with his psychic power, began to glow. Not with conventional light, but with something that existed simultaneously in physical space and the Force. Golden radiance expanded outward in waves, touching every nearby ship, every soldier, every mind within range. And then the Emperor spoke. His voice carried not through communication channels, but through the Force itself, resonating in the consciousness of every being capable of perceiving it. The words were felt rather than heard, understood on a level beyond language. "You come to conquer a galaxy in the name of false gods. You will learn what it means to face a real one." The golden radiance intensified, and Anakin felt something he had never experienced the Emperor channeling. His full psychic might not as subtle manipulation or careful guidance, but as raw, overwhelming power. Lightning erupted from the flagship, not conventional energy but golden fire that seemed to burn reality itself. It struck the nearest Vong world ship with force that made their organic weapons seem pathetic in comparison. The living vessel actually screamed through the Force as divine fire consumed it from within. In seconds, something that had taken the Vong years to grow was reduced to burning wreckage. The Emperor was not done. More lightning lanced outward, striking worldship after worldship. Each impact was catastrophic. The God Emperor's power finding the living hearts of the organic vessels and burning them out. The Vong screamed in terror and confusion. Their blessed ships, gifts from their gods, were being destroyed by power that made their deities seem small. "He's destroying their worldships faster than they can respond," Rex whispered in awe. That's not possible. One being cannot." "He's not one being," Anakin replied, equally awed despite having seen the Emperor's power before. "He's the collective psychic might of 40,000 years of human evolution. He's wielding power that would kill any normal Force user instantly. He's showing them what a real god looks like." Through his battle meditation, Anakin felt the impact on both sides. Alliance soldiers, witnessing their Emperor unleashing divine wrath upon their enemies, felt their morale surge beyond anything motivation alone could provide. They fought with renewed ferocity, believing themselves invincible under such divine protection. The Vong, conversely, felt their religious certainty shatter. Their gods had told them they were the chosen people, destined to conquer the galaxy. But their gods had never shown power like this. Their sacred worldships were being destroyed like toys by a being whose might transcended anything they had believed possible. And at the center of the Vong fleet, Vong La faced the crisis his philosophical questioning had prepared him for. Vong La stood on the bridge of his command worldship, watching in horror as the being called Emperor destroyed everything the Yuuzhan Vong had believed in. Golden fire consumed their sacred vessels. Their warriors, despite their fanaticism, were dying in droves to an enemy whose coordination seemed to approach omniscience. Their gods were being proven small. "Supreme Commander!" one of his officers cried, panic breaking through military discipline. "The world ship of War Master Kaylee La has been destroyed. His entire fleet is in disarray. The eastern prong is collapsing," another reported. "They're retreating without orders." All around him, the Vong forces were fragmenting. Some units pressed forward with suicidal determination, their religious devotion pushing them into attacks that accomplished nothing except their own deaths. Others retreated in panic, their faith shattered by witnessing their holy vessels destroyed by power that transcended their understanding of divinity. Vong La faced a choice that would determine not just this battle, but the future of his entire species. He thought of his conversations with Anakin Skywalker, the infidel's words about learning from defeat, about adapting faith to encompass new understanding, about the difference between wisdom and mere devotion. At the time, those words had been blasphemy. Now, watching his gods proven inferior to the Emperor's might, they seemed prophetic. "Supreme Commander, your orders?" his tactical officer demanded. "Do we continue the assault? The faithful are willing to die for the glory of known." "The faithful are dying for nothing," Vong La interrupted, his voice hollow. "Our gods are not here. They have abandoned us, or they were never real. Either way, continuing this assault is suicide without purpose. Blasphemy. The gods test us. We must prove our faith through sacrifice. The gods test us by giving us minds capable of recognizing when we are beaten," Vong La replied with sudden clarity. "Any creature can die for its beliefs. True wisdom is knowing when to live for them. The Yuuzhan Vong will not be conquered by refusing to adapt. We will be conquered by refusing to learn." He opened a fleet-wide communication channel, his voice carrying to every Vong ship. "This is Supreme Commander Vong La to all forces. The infidel emperor is no false god. He is death incarnate, and he has proven himself superior to our deities. Those who wish to die for gods who have abandoned us, continue your assault. Those who wish to survive, who wish to preserve our species rather than sacrifice it to pride, withdraw immediately. I, Vong La, Supreme Commander of this blessed force, order retreat, not because I lack faith, but because I have learned that true faith requires wisdom, and wisdom demands we recognize our defeat." The communication sent shockwaves through the Vong fleet. Their supreme commander, their greatest warrior, was ordering retreat, was admitting defeat, was questioning the very foundations of their religious certainty. The fleet split almost instantly. Approximately half the Vong forces, those whose faith was unshakable, who could not conceive of their gods being proven false, ignored the order and pressed their attack with renewed fanaticism. They charged toward the Emperor's flagship, willing to die rather than accept the heresy their supreme commander had spoken. The other half, those whose minds were open enough to recognize truth when it destroyed their assumptions, began withdrawing. World ships disengaged from combat, support vessels broke off their attacks, and warriors found themselves questioning everything they had believed. The Yuuzhan Vong, for the first time in their species' history, experienced civil war over matters of faith. Anakin, witnessing this through his battle meditation, felt the shift immediately. "The Vong fleet is fragmenting." Vong La ordered retreat, but half his forces are ignoring him. "Take advantage." The Emperor's voice resonated through the force, somehow maintaining his devastating assault while still coordinating with Anakin. "Destroy the fanatics. Let the moderates withdraw. We end the threat while showing mercy to those capable of learning." It was a strategic masterstroke. Divide the enemy by ideology. Destroy those too dangerous to leave alive, and allow potential future peace with those capable of reason. "All units," Anakin broadcast through battle meditation, "concentrate fire on Vong vessels continuing assault. Allow retreating ships to withdraw unmolested. Discriminate between targets. We kill the fanatics and show mercy to the reasonable." The distinction required precision that only battle meditation could provide. Alliance forces had to differentiate between Vong ships pressing attacks and those attempting retreat, often with the two types intermixed in chaotic battle conditions. But Anakin's coordination provided that precision, allowing his soldiers to make split-second decisions that would have been impossible under conventional command. The fanatic Vong died in droves, their suicidal charges meeting coordinated defensive fire that cut them apart. The Emperor's golden lightning continued to destroy world ships with divine fury, each strike a theological argument that no amount of faith could counter. Meanwhile, Vong La led his retreating forces away from the slaughter. His heart was heavy with the knowledge that he had just split his species, that the Yuuzhan Vong would never be united again after this day. But he had also saved millions of warriors who might have died pointlessly, and he had perhaps given his species a chance at survival. As his world ship retreated toward dark space, he took one last look at the battle behind him. The Emperor's golden fire still raged, destroying the faithful who refused to learn. It was, he realized, a lesson in the harshest form: adapt or die. The Yuuzhan Vong, or at least his portion of them, would adapt. Plot course for the void between galaxies, he ordered his navigation officer. We return to our fleet's staging area. We have much to discuss about the future of our species. And the faithful, Supreme Commander, those who remain behind, they have chosen their fate. I mourn them, but I cannot save those who refuse to be saved. Our future lies in wisdom, not martyrdom. Let the gods judge us for that choice, if the gods are even real. His world ship entered dark space, leaving the battle behind. Half the Yuuzhan Vong invasion force millions of warriors retreated with him. They would not return to the galaxy for conquest. They had learned, as Vong La had learned through defeat and philosophical questioning, that some enemies could not be conquered. The other half died in fire and fury, destroyed by a god whose existence proved their faith was misplaced. The battle lasted another 6 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt after the Vong split. The fanatics, fighting without coordination against an enemy whose coordination approached perfection, died in methodical slaughter. The Emperor's golden lightning destroyed world ship after world ship, while Anakin's battle meditation coordinated defensive responses that made the Vong's numerical advantage irrelevant. When the last fanatical world ship was finally destroyed, the silence that followed felt deafening. 2 million Alliance soldiers stood victorious across a star system littered with the wreckage of thousands of Vong vessels. The bodies of tens of millions of fanatical warriors floated in the void, their sacrifice accomplishing nothing except demonstrating the futility of blind faith against superior power. The Yuuzhan Vong invasion was over. Anakin released his battle meditation with immense relief, his consciousness collapsing back into his individual form after hours of expanded awareness. He felt like he had been everywhere simultaneously, and now the limitation of single perspective felt almost claustrophobic. "It's done," he breathed, exhaustion washing over him in waves. "We won. We survived," Rex corrected gently. "Victory suggests we came out ahead. Our casualty reports are still coming in, but we lost a lot of good soldiers today." It was true. Despite the coordination advantages, despite the Emperor's divine intervention, the Vong's numbers had still taken their toll. Preliminary estimates suggested Alliance losses exceeded 200,000 soldiers, a fraction of the Vong's losses, but still devastating. "Every one of them died for something," Anakin said. "They died defending the galaxy against an existential threat. They died stopping an invasion that would have enslaved or killed billions. That sacrifice has meaning." "Agreed, sir. Just making sure we don't forget the cost in celebration of the victory." The Emperor's flagship approached the indomitable Will, the golden vessel showing no signs of the devastating assault it had unleashed. The God Emperor, it seemed, had resources that transcended normal ship-to-ship combat. A communication request came through the Emperor requesting Anakin's presence aboard his flagship. Despite his exhaustion, Anakin complied immediately. He found the Emperor standing in the ship's observation deck, looking out at the debris field that had once been the Vong invasion fleet. The golden armor that usually gleamed with contained power looked somehow dimmer, as if even his divine might had been taxed by the sustained assault. "Lord Commander," the Emperor spoke without turning, "you performed beyond expectations. Your battle meditation coordinated millions of soldiers across impossible distances, adapted to rapidly changing conditions, and provided advantages that made our numerical inferiority irrelevant. Well done. I had help, Master. The Psyker network, my soldiers' willingness to trust the coordination, and your intervention. Without your destruction of their world ships, they might have eventually overwhelmed us through sheer numbers. Perhaps. But consider what you accomplished independent of my intervention. You predicted the Vong commander's psychological break before it occurred. You adapted the battle plan to exploit their religious schism. You maintained coordination through hours of intense combat without losing effectiveness. These are not merely technical achievements, Anakin. They are demonstrations of leadership that transcends normal human capability. The Emperor turned to face him, and Anakin saw something unexpected respect that went beyond master evaluating student. The Yuuzhan Vong threat is neutralized, the Emperor continued. The fanatics are destroyed, and those who withdrew under Tsavong La will not return. His philosophical evolution, seeded by your conversations with him, has split their species permanently. Those capable of reason will build a new society somewhere in the void, one not based on conquest. Those incapable died here today. You accomplished through words and example what could not be achieved through force alone. I just showed him that learning from defeat was possible, Anakin replied. He made the choice to change, and that is the most valuable form of victory, making the enemy defeat themselves. Your Grey Knight training has proven its worth not just in combat effectiveness but in psychological warfare that transcends conventional military strategy. You have become what I intended when I first trained you, a weapon of purpose, not just force. The praise was unexpected and affecting. Despite years of service, the Emperor rarely offered such direct approval. What happens now, Master? Anakin asked. The Vong are gone, the Sirook eliminated, the external threats are neutralized. What comes next? Expansion, the Emperor replied. With the unknown regions secured and threats eliminated, the Galactic Alliance can focus on growth rather than defense. Your forward bases become staging points for colonization. The Chiss Alliance provides strategic depth. The Proto-Space Marine Legions, now battle-tested and proven, become the foundation for an expanded military. And me? What role do I play in peacetime? The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. That depends on you, Anakin. You have proven yourself as Lord Commander, as Grey Knight, as Battle Meditation Master. But you are also a father and husband. Your children grow strong in the Force. Your wife continues her democratic work within our military structure. You have earned the right to choose your own path for a time. You're giving me leave to return to my family? After everything, I am giving you the choice. You have served exceptionally. You have sacrificed years of family time for galactic security. Now that security is achieved, at least for the foreseeable future, you have earned the right to reclaim some of what you sacrificed. Take time. Watch your children grow. Be present for the domestic moments you missed during campaigns. The galaxy will still need you. Eventually, threats always emerge. But for now, rest. Tears threatened to fall as Anakin processed what the Emperor was offering. Years of military service, of being the weapon pointed at galactic threats, and now, permission to be simply a man with his family. Thank you, Master. That means more than I can express. You have earned it. But know that your training will not end. Your children will need instruction in Grey Knight philosophy. The Battle Psyker program will need your oversight. And when the next threat emerges, as threats inevitably do, I will call upon you again. But for now, go home. Your family awaits. Anakin bowed deeply, gratitude overwhelming him. I won't let you down, Master. When you need me again, I'll be ready. I know you will. Now go. Senator Amidala has been patient long enough. The return to Coruscant was triumphant. News of the Vong invasion's defeat had spread across the galaxy, and the Alliance celebrated its survival with festivals and ceremonies in every system. Anakin Skywalker, Master of Battle Meditation, was hailed as one of the primary architects of victory alongside the Emperor himself. But Anakin cared nothing for celebrations. He wanted only to see his family. He found them waiting at their apartment, Padme standing in the doorway with tears streaming down her face, Luke and Leia barely containing their excitement behind her. You're home, Padme whispered as he approached. I'm home, he confirmed, sweeping her into his arms. And this time, I'm staying. The Emperor has given me leave. I can be a father and husband again. Really? The hope in her voice was almost painful to hear. You're not leaving again immediately? Not immediately. Eventually, probably the galaxy will always have threats. But for now, I'm here. I want to see our children grow up. I want to teach them what I've learned. I want to be present for the mundane moments I've missed." Luke and Leia couldn't contain themselves any longer, launching at their father with joyful screams. Anakin caught them both, his enhanced strength making their combined weight nothing. "Daddy, did you beat the scary aliens?" Luke asked excitedly. "We did, with help from the Emperor and lots of brave soldiers. But I also learned something important." "What?" Leia asked. "That fighting wars isn't the only way to make a difference. Sometimes the biggest victories come from teaching enemies to become friends. A very wise Vong commander learned that lesson, and because he did, millions of his people survived who would have died otherwise." "Can we learn to do what you do?" Luke pressed. "The mind coordination thing?" Anakin looked at his children so young, so powerful, so full of potential. They could become Grey Knights, could master battle meditation, could be weapons of incredible capability. But they could also be something more. "You can learn whatever you choose to learn," he replied. "I'll teach you everything I know about the Force, about combat, about leadership. But I'll also teach you what your mother has taught me. That compassion matters as much as strength. That questioning authority is sometimes the wisest choice. And that being human means balancing power with purpose." "That sounds complicated," Leia observed. "It is. But you're both smart enough to figure it out. And I'll be here to help you every step of the way." Later that night, after the children were asleep, Anakin and Padme sat on their balcony overlooking Coruscant. The city planet buzzed with celebration fireworks, music, the collective joy of billions who had been saved from conquest. "What are you thinking?" Padme asked softly. "That I've spent years becoming a weapon, and now I get to remember how to be a person. It's strange. I feel like I should be out there, preparing for the next threat, maintaining readiness. But the Emperor said I've earned rest, and I believe him." "Will you be able to rest? You've been a soldier for so long." "I'll learn. Just like I learned battle meditation. I'll learn how to be present, how to be still, how to find purpose in domestic life rather than galactic warfare. It won't be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the celebrations below. Somewhere out there, among the stars they couldn't see, Vong La was leading his reformed Vong toward an uncertain future. Somewhere, the forward bases Anakin had established stood vigilant against threats not yet emerged. Somewhere, the Emperor was already planning the next phase of humanity's expansion. But here, on this balcony, Anakin Skywalker was simply a husband and father, enjoying a moment of peace earned through sacrifice. The Crusade was over. The threats were neutralized. The future was secured. For now, that was enough.